Chapter 5:17. Yi Qinghan personally appeared in the outer sect to train the outer sect disciples and build up their cohesiveness. The people of Guangzhong did not want to be heaven-defying, but they wanted to live and die together. They could not betray the sect for glory. More than 3,000 disciples had a large number of elixirs and secret technique. They began to cultivate day and night. With the divine bird and the little golden crow, it was impossible for these disciples not to improve. There were endless screams in the martial arts field. A little boy's buttocks were lit. He pulled out a flame and roared in the martial arts field, causing everyone to laugh. The divine bird and the little golden crow were having fun. Lin Wutian did not stop them. He even took the initiative to ask the divine bird to help train the outer sect disciples. Yi Qinghan stood at the top of the mountain and looked down at the younger generation. Guangzhong was developing faster and faster. There were more and more young disciples with different talent. Some gradually showed strong physiques, and some were even as talented as the inner sect disciples. He let Gu Qingyu and the others choose the disciples. In the first month, the outer sect of Guangzhong had 8,000 outer sect disciples. Its territory was getting bigger and bigger. In the second month, the outer sect had more than 20,000 disciples. Yi Qinghan occupied dozens of mountains and built more than 10 branches of Guangzhong. Guangzhong became the second most powerful sect in Xianyue County. In the third month, Yi Qinghan and the others were in seclusion. A large number of strong cultivators came to Xianyue Mountain. Many of them forced their way into Xianyue Mountain. Some even attacked the Blood Moon Divine Guards. Some even began to attack the protective array of Guangzhong's inner sect. Among these strange, strong cultivators, there was no lack of priests. The weakest of them was venerable sovereigns. Many of them were not from Xianyue County. They were all super-strong cultivators from Mushin Estate. Even the super-strong cultivators of Mushin Academy appeared. They were in groups of 3 to 5. Some were priests and some were venerable sovereigns. Most of them were teams of more than 10 people. There were many strong cultivators. They looked extremely fierce and should not be provoked. Yi Qinghan came out of seclusion. He frowned and looked at the adventurers who broke through the Blood Moon Divine Guards. He was curious. Why did these people suddenly gather together? Fellow Yi, Mushin Estate has issued a bounty. We can't stop these people. It will anger them, Xian Lang said in a deep voice. What bounty? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. The 7th princess of the Divine Mu Estate was bitten by the 7 demise snake during her training. If she couldn't find the 7 demise grass within 3 months, she would die without a doubt. Even the priests couldn't escape. And this kind of 7 extinction grass only grows at the peak of the clouds and mist, where there is no yin and no yang. This kind of place has always only existed in huge mountain ranges and forests. Therefore, all the adventurers in the Divine Cleansing Estate's territory gather in those few mountain ranges, and the Mystic Moon Mountain Range is one of them. Xian Lang said in a low voice, "The Mansion Master has decreed that anyone who obtains the 7 extinction grass will be able to obtain a medium deity divine core. If he is a young elite who is liked by the 7th princess, he can even marry the 7th princess and enter the Mu clan's academy without any examination. Most of these lunatics are the most powerful mercenaries, adventurers, and disciples of the Mu clan's academy. Fellow Yi, you'd better not provoke them. If you anger them, even if all of us from the Mystic Moon County join forces, we may not be able to win." Xian Lang's whole body trembled as he reminded in a hoarse voice. Yi Qinghan stretched his neck, clenched his iron fist, and said to Xian Lang, "Open the passage and let them in. When they come out, they will take 10% of the harvest. If they dare to refuse, then we will fight." This was not a small amount of income, and Yi Qinghan didn't want to give it up. Moreover, this place was originally Kuang Sek's property. He couldn't give up this income just because the other party was powerful. Xian Lang looked at Yi Qinghan's firm tone and took a deep breath. He felt that only Yi Qinghan dared to snatch food from these people who didn't care about their lives. Yi Qinghan informed most of the experts in the inner sect of Kuang's sect to gather. We will enter the mystic Moon Mountains to look for the 7 extremes grass. Be careful and keep in touch, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Gu Qingyu and the others were surprised. They were in seclusion and didn't know about the bounty. 7 extremes grass? The divine bird was even more surprised. It quickly reminded, the poisonous miasma around this thing is enough to kill a lesser god. Master, call them all. It'll be good if 2 or 3 of them can come back alive. Hiss! Celestial Qilin nodded in agreement and communicated with the divine bird. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine bird and Celestial Qilin, hoping that they could come up with a good plan. Soon, the divine bird looked up and said, Jun Ma said that there is 7 extremes grass in the mystic Moon Mountains. However, the poisonous miasma nearby is too terrible. We can only let creatures with strong poisonous miasma get to the top of 7 extremes clouds to get the 7 extremes grass. The most important thing is the 7 extremes snake. Where there is 7 extremes grass, there must be a 7 extremes snake. Hiss! Screech! At this moment, the god-slaying eagle and the multicolored snake in Yi Qinghan's body rushed out. The god-slaying eagle in Emperor Ye's body also rushed out. The 2 eagles roared as if they were going to do something. Yi Qinghan nodded. The multicolored snake was an extremely poisonous creature. With it, there was no need to be afraid of the poisonous miasma. 2 god-slaying eagles against a 7 extremes snake. Even if they couldn't kill it, they could still intimidate it. Since the 7 extremes grass is so dangerous, you guys should stay in the sect. When they appear, you guys can slaughter them ruthlessly. 10% of the loot, no exceptions. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, Master, I want to go. Emperor Yi was a little worried about Yi Qinghan. He requested to go into the mystic Moon Mountains as well. Yi Qinghan shook his head and transmitted a message. It is very dangerous inside. There are many god worshippers. Even if you and I work together, we won't be able to deal with a few god worshippers. Therefore, I will bring Medusa in this time. With the divine bird, the heavenly Qilin, the multicolored snake, and the god-slaying eagle, the mystic Moon Mountains won't be dangerous to us. Emperor Yi was helpless. Yi Qinghan was absolute. She obviously couldn't change his mind. Yi Qinghan gave some instructions and brought Medusa onto the heavenly Qilin's back. He put away the multicolored snake and the god-slaying eagle and rushed into the mystic Moon Mountains with the divine bird. There were experts everywhere in the mountains. There was no lack of god worshippers. However, their target was the 7 extremes grass. This thing wasn't easy to find. The experts forcefully recruited the weak. If there was any resistance, they would be killed immediately. The flames of war were everywhere in the mystic Moon Mountains. Mid-level god worshippers could be seen everywhere. Although they were the weakest among the mid-level god worshippers, they weren't something a low-level god worshippers could compare to. Supreme God Mystic also followed in. This was the fastest way for him to enter the realm of a mid-level god worshipper. Obviously, he wouldn't give up. He entered a few days earlier than Yi Qinghan. Unfortunately, he was more unlucky. Not long after he entered, he encountered a mid-level god worshipper. He was forcefully suppressed, consumed something extremely poisonous, and became someone's servant. Yi Qinghan's speed was very fast. With the heavenly Qilin and the divine bird guiding the way, he went straight to his destination. Medusa had been sitting in front of Yi Qinghan. She leaned on Yi Qinghan's chest and narrowed her eyes. She wasn't affected by external things. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. The 5 elements almost couldn't conceal her ruthless aura. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He hurriedly hugged Medusa's waist and asked softly, "What happened?" Medusa transmitted a message back. "A mid-level god worshipper is watching us. When I just returned to the mythological plane, this guy also tried to kill me." "Who is it?" Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. A mid-level god worshipper wasn't someone they could provoke. Once a battle broke out, Medusa's identity would definitely be exposed. His name is Supreme God Ling Ning. He's a guest elder of the divine cleansing estate. His cultivation is considered decent. Lure him into the depths and find a chance to kill him. Medusa retracted her killing intent. She pretended to curl up seductively in Yi Qinghan's embrace. She was afraid of attracting Supreme God Ling Ning's suspicion. Yi Qinghan brought Medusa and rode the heavenly Qilin into the depth. The mountain path was rugged and difficult to traverse. Very few people appeared before them. A middle-aged man in his 40s had bright eyes. There was confusion and greed in his eyes. He coveted Yi Qinghan's heavenly Qilin and was confused about Medusa's identity. He kept feeling that her aura was somewhat familiar. He was Ling Ning, a mid-level god worshipper. He quietly followed Yi Qinghan deeper into the desolate swamp. Miasma pervaded the air, making it impossible to see one's own fingers. Even divine senses were suppressed. Chapter 5:18. In the miasma swamp, the heavenly Qilin divine horse stepped on the withered grass, showing no signs of falling. Yi Qinghan and Medusa didn't make a sound as they gradually disappeared from sight. Ling Ning silently followed the two. He wasn't sure if the woman in Yi Qinghan's arms was Medusa. He didn't even think about it. He wanted to forcefully suppress Yi Qinghan before asking for clarification. How could a mid-level priestess like Yi Qinghan, who couldn't even be considered a low-level priestess, place him in her eyes? Hence, he didn't call for his companions and followed Yi Qinghan into the depths of the swamp. What he didn't know was that Yi Qinghan was leading him into the depths of hell. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The heavenly Qilin purposely made some noises so that Ling Ning wouldn't lose track of them. The divine bird sneered. That fellow is a wood priestess. He controls the origin energy of wood and is extremely afraid of fire. You should have brought the little golden crow with you. No need. When we reach the depths, I'll reveal my true form and insta-kill him. Medusa's eyes flashed with a cold light. Thinking back to when they were chased by so many people, Ling Ning relied on the origin energy of wood to communicate with the spiritual plant. She hated Yi Qinghan to the core. She had long wanted to kill him. Swish, swish, swish. The heavenly Qilin increased its speed as it rushed into the depths of the swamp. Ling Ning followed suit and sneered. It's too late to speed up now. If this seat wants to capture you, even if you run to the ends of the earth, you won't be able to escape from my grasp. Yi Qinghan's location was betrayed by countless spiritual plants. Within a radius of 100 li, all spiritual plants could communicate with Ling Ning. But beyond that, Ling Ning couldn't control them. The distance between them was maintained at about 30 li. Ling Ning wasn't worried that Yi Qinghan would discover her. After all, in this swamp, even a priestess wouldn't be able to use her divine sense to sense things beyond 30 li. At most, she would be able to sense things within 10 li. At the edge of the swamp, there was a valley that was completely devoid of life. Not even the chirping of birds could be heard. Other than the rustling sound of the wind, there was no other sound. The multicolored snake rushed out of Yi Qinghan's body and swam around the swamp. It was extremely terrifying as it constantly flicked its forked tongue. The divine bird's eyes shone brighter than the stars, as if it had found something good. It did not want to participate in the battle of the gods, so it rushed into the valley with the colorful snake. Yi Qinghan and Medusa stood outside the valley, waiting for Ling Ning's arrival. The heavenly Qilin crouched outside the hill, saliva dripping from its mouth as it coveted Ling Ning's godhood. Recently, it had followed Yi Qinghan and had already swallowed 5 to 6 godhoods. This was equivalent to half a year's worth of hard work. Now, its guts were even bigger than a divine bird's. It even dared to snatch the godhood of a mid-level god. Yi Qinghan gripped his frenzy as he stared at the surroundings. Leng Ning had no intentions of concealing himself. He was extremely confident in his own cultivation. Brat, do you still want to make a move against me? Leng Ning couldn't help but mock Yi Qinghan when he saw how eager Yi Qinghan was to battle. Why not? Yi Qinghan coldly replied. Medusa hid at the side, allowing Yi Qinghan to divert Leng Ning's attention so that she could launch a terrifying attack at any moment, killing Leng Ning instantly. She couldn't allow him to escape. Ha ha ha, this old man originally thought that I met a decent genius. Seems like I was wrong. Who would have thought that I met a fool? Leng Ning laughed maniacally. A mid-level god could insta-kill a low-level god in an instant. Even an existence like the mystic divinity wouldn't be able to withstand a single move from him. This was the difference between a mid-level god and a low-level god. Even if Yi Qinghan was a low-level god, Leng Ning was confident that he could insta-kill him with a single move. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and took in a deep breath. His hands gripped the frenzy saber tightly as the 5 elements gathered together. The 5 elemental dragons roared as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The profound of wind sliced apart the space-time laws within 100 miles. Leng Ning was shocked. She didn't expect that Yi Qinghan actually had the 5 elemental Dao body. Not only that, he had already cultivated each of the 5 elements to the large success stage. He had already condensed a godhead before becoming a god. No wonder you are so arrogant. But with your cultivation, you might be able to escape from a low-level god. But in front of this old man, you are still nothing. Eyes flashing, he decided to capture Yi Qinghan alive, enslave him, and turn him into a godhood machine. Once Yi Qinghan was formed, he would be able to form elemental godhood, lightning, and wind godhood. Even lesser godhood would be priceless if all 5 elements godhood were formed. Yi Qinghan was in the open, Medusa was in the dark, and the celestial Qilin was watching from the sidelines. Leng Ning only noticed that the celestial Qilin and Yi Qinghan were about to make a move, but not Medusa. She couldn't help but sneer as she waited for Yi Qinghan and the celestial Qilin. Hua! Yi Qinghan slashed out with his saber, containing the 5 elements battle chi. His killing intent soared to the heavens, and his aura was extremely terrifying. Leng Ning was filled with disdain. With a wave of her hand, a gigantic finger appeared and blocked Yi Qinghan's attack effortlessly. A mid-level god was indeed terrifying. Yi Qinghan's all-out attack was actually useless in front of Leng Ning. The celestial Qilin transformed into a bolt of lightning as it viciously stomped down on Leng Ning's head. Its speed was so fast that Yi Qinghan couldn't even dodge it. But when facing Leng Ning, he still paled in comparison. Leng Ning waved her fist, smashing it into the neck of the celestial Qilin, sending it flying into the valley. SSS. Aolo, the celestial Qilin's body twitched, as if its godhead was about to shatter. The mid-level god's attack seemed so light, but the power behind it was actually so terrifying. Leng Ning laughed maniacally as she looked at the celestial Qilin and Yi Qinghan with disdain. Just the 2 of you dare to make a move against this seat? I'll make you regret ever being born into this world. Shwa! With a wave of her hand, Leng Ning actually dragged Yi Qinghan and the celestial Qilin towards her. Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. He didn't expect the difference between him and a mid-level god to be so great. He frantically circulated the 5 elements, wanting to break free from Leng Ning's grasp. Come over here. Be my slave and help me condense the godhead of the 5 elements. This old man won't mistreat you. Leng Ning laughed cruelly as she waved her gigantic hand, aiming for Yi Qinghan's neck. The celestial Qilin is a pretty good spirit beast. It can travel 10,000 li in a single day, and its speed is much faster than that of an ordinary god. It's perfect to be my mount. Leng Ning was incomparably greedy. She wanted to enslave Yi Qinghan and control the heavenly Qilin. Roar, roar, roar. The celestial Qilin screamed miserably as it struggled to escape. However, at this moment, Medusa opened her eyes, which could see through the illusions. Her gray eyes bathed her cold body. Her strong body was petrified at a speed that naked eyes could observe. Her arms were petrified first. Whoosh! Medusa's silhouette flickered, and when Ling Ning wasn't paying attention, she grabbed hold of Ling Ning's throat. Their gazes met, and the eyes of the powerful mid-level god priestess were filled with shock. "No, Medusa!" Ling Ning howled in terror. She hurriedly shook off Yi Qinghan and the heavenly Qilin, wanting to suppress Medusa. Medusa looked down at Ling Ning, her voice cold as ice. "You still remember me? I thought you'd forgotten about me." "No, no, no. Medusa, I've already given up on hunting you. Please spare me." Ling Ning's arms were petrified, and her head was petrified as well. Only the soul within her godhead was still struggling. In a short period of time, she couldn't regain control of her body. She could only scream in terror, "Medusa! I beg you! I'm willing to submit, please don't kill me." Yi Qinghan walked over. He couldn't help but be shocked by Medusa's cultivation. However, he was also shocked by the strength of the mid-level god priestess. Against emperors and lesser gods, she could instantly petrify them. But against Ling Ning, she could only petrify her head and arms. Ling Ning could even suppress the petrification speed of Medusa's petrification. From this, one could see how terrifying a mid-level god priestess was. Medusa's body tensed up, and her eyes narrowed into flashes of lightning. She pushed her mental energy to the limit as she struggled with Ling Ning for control. "Help me!" Medusa's voice was hoarse as she said in a low voice, "Destroy his body. No. Brat, you dare to cooperate with Medusa. You will die a horrible death." Ling Ning screamed in terror. Yi Qinghan coldly snorted. He slashed open Ling Ning's back and summoned the start-whining vine. The vine pierced into Ling Ning's body, and countless strands of divine energy were devoured by it. The start-whining vine grew more and more excited as it grew thicker and sharper. It looked like it was about to break through to become a low-level god priestess. At this moment, Yi Qinghan summoned the multicolored snake back, and it directly entered Ling Ning's body. It was extremely difficult to kill a mid-level god priestess. Even with the help of the start-whining vine and the multicolored snake, it would still take a long time to devour the divine energy and essence. Medusa was doing her best to suppress Ling Ning. No matter how Ling Ning struggled, she couldn't escape from Medusa's control. As time passed, the absorption ability of the start-whining vine grew stronger and stronger, and Ling Ning's resistance grew weaker and weaker. Ling Ning's life force was unimaginably strong. The start-whining vine, the multicolored snake, and the two god-slaying hawks were all absorbing the life force of Ling Ning's body at the same time. "Fellow Taoist, as long as you let me go, I am willing to guarantee you a place in the divine cleansing manor." Ling Ning's face was deathly pale. Yi Qinghan ignored Ling Ning and placed his palms on Medusa's back, providing her with large amounts of life force, relieving her of the pressure. The area around Ling Ning's body was being petrified grew larger and larger, and soon, her entire body would be covered. Even her godhead would be sealed within her body, and she would lose all hope of breaking free. The divine bird neared and directly snatched away the spatial ring on his finger. After an entire day and night, Medusa collapsed in Yi Qinghan's arms in exhaustion. She was still a little worried as she said, "I'd rather shatter his physical body and shatter his divine spark than have this intermediate divine spark." A mid-level god priestess wasn't something that could be obtained so easily. As long as Ling Ning was given the slightest chance, she would be able to break free and disappear without a trace. Yi Qinghan didn't have the confidence to shatter the godhead the instant he destroyed Ling Ning's body. Thus, he didn't make any rash moves. Looking at the petrified Ling Ning, he comforted her in a low voice, "Recover your divine energy first. I will guard the godhead with them. It would be a pity to shatter it." Chapter 519. In the valley, Ling Ning's body was completely petrified. The godly energy inside his body was completely frozen and wasted. The star-twisting vine only managed to absorb 10% of his energy, while the rainbow snake and the 2 god-slaying eagles only managed to absorb half of his energy. An hour later, Medusa slowly opened her eyes. Her mental energy had recovered by more than half. She directly shattered the petrified body, suppressed the godhead, and erased Ling Ning's soul. Then, she gave the godhead to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan couldn't use an intermediate deity divine core at the moment. Even Emperor Yi couldn't use an intermediate deity divine core. There was a fundamental difference between an intermediate deity divine core and a lesser deity divine core. If one wanted to refine an intermediate deity divine core, one had to have the same cultivation level as Lord Mystic. Even Divine Lord Mystic would need a few hundred years to refine an intermediate godhead. Moreover, it was a godhead like Ling Ning's that wasn't considered strong. The heavenly Qilin looked at the wood godhead being taken away by Yi Qinghan with dissatisfaction. The divine bird obviously wouldn't allow any divine beast to grow to an uncontrollable level, so it warned Yi Qinghan in advance. Yi Qinghan shook his head when he saw that the heavenly Qilin and the star-twisting vine both wanted the intermediate godhead. I can't give you the intermediate godhead. If you want it, you have to wait until I reach the realm of a lesser god. Then, I will help you to reach the realm of a lesser god. These 2 terrifying creatures were uncontrollable factors. Once they reached the realm of a lesser god, Medusa wouldn't be able to control them. Especially the star-twisting vine, even if it reached the realm of a lesser god, it would be equivalent to a few hundred or even a few thousand lesser gods. It could exhaust a lesser god to death. After erasing the traces of Ling Ning, Yi Qinghan brought Medusa and quickly left the place. Hiss, the heavenly Qilin growled. It didn't want to bother with Yi Qinghan and didn't point the way anymore. The divine bird had to trick and deceive it before it finally calmed down. It found out that there were a total of 10 districts in the Mystic Moon Mountain Range, and each district was controlled by 10 top-notch lower-level god beasts. Senior God Mystic did not dare to be presumptuous in front of these 10 god beasts. They could definitely fight against the middle-level god beasts in a short time. After the divine bird and the heavenly Qilin talked for a while, it looked up at Yi Qinghan and said, "Master, something said that there is a suitable habitat for the 7 extinction grass in the Mystic Moon Mountain Range, and it is within the control of the Cloud Beast. However, the Cloud Beast is extremely fast and it can swallow clouds and mist, tearing through godhead and devouring the body's energy. Even though it's a lesser god, a medium god can't catch it, and none of the lesser god priests are a match for it." Medusa was very knowledgeable, and she was also an inheritance-type divine beast. She knew a lot about cloud beasts. Those creatures weren't very scary, and they even looked very cute and pretty. They looked a little like a cat, but they were slightly bigger than normal cats. Cloud beasts were too powerful, and they weren't suitable for experts to raise. However, superior god priests and some prefecture lords liked these creatures. Some of the upper-class experts in the god nation also liked to keep cloud beasts as pet. The cloud beast likes divinity crystals and things like godhead. It's not easy to raise it, just like the start-whining vine. Ordinary people can't raise it. Wild cloud beasts are better. They eat anything and aren't picky. However, raised cloud beasts are very picky, Medusa said softly. Yi Qinghan already had a lot of weirdos around him. The divine bird was the biggest weirdo in the world, followed by the star-twining vine. Now, he even had the heavenly Qilin. If he raised another cloud beast, the arrogant sect would collapse. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Before Yi Qinghan could say anything, the star-twining vine waved its vines as a warning. It would never allow Yi Qinghan to raise cloud beasts. It didn't want to reduce its food supply. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. These foodies only cared about themselves. They never thought about him. The heavenly Qilin led the way. Yi Qinghan led a group of divine beasts and rushed into the cloud beasts' territory. Along the way, many experts were searching for the 7 extinction grass. There were experts everywhere in the depths of the mystic Moon Mountain range. Occasionally, they would be attacked by powerful beasts. Even the lesser gods would die on the spot. The forest was filled with the stench of blood. Yi Qinghan and Medusa rode on the heavenly Qilin and rushed into the depths of the mountain range. The star-twining vine and the god-slaying eagle were hiding in their bodies. The colorful snake coiled around their waists while the divine birds sat on their shoulders. "Master, there are treasures 300 miles to the east," the divine bird whispered. Hiss hiss. The heavenly Qilin didn't need Yi Qinghan's guidance. It rushed to the east automatically. In a valley filled with white fog, there were many lesser gods in the periphery. They weren't particularly famous. They didn't want to cause trouble, so they allowed Yi Qinghan to enter the mountain range. A blue divine herb that looked like a blue lotus was swaying on a mountainside. It radiated divinity and made people drool. This is a supreme-grade blue lotus. It can purify the souls of gods. It has the best effect on venerable sovereigns. Medusa's eyes lit up. Yi Qinghan reached out to grab it. However, before he could touch the blue lotus, a large pincer broke out of the ground and attacked Yi Qinghan's head. The pincer's speed was terrifying. The hard mountain was even weaker than tofu in front of it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan was shocked. He quickly withdrew his hand and retreated. He saw clearly the origin of the large pincer. It was actually a huge mantis that was hiding in the mountain range. It was only a few meters away from the blue lotus. If he didn't react quickly enough, his body would have been cut in half by the pincer alone. Hiss hiss. The heavenly Qilin raised its front hooves and stomped on the charging divine mantis. It hit the mantis back. Boom. The mantis that was longer than a person was stomped into the mountain by the heavenly Qilin. Its body that was stronger than divine weapons couldn't withstand a single stomp from the heavenly Qilin. Roar. The divine mantis roared in fear and anger. It waved its large pincers and attacked the heavenly Qilin's front hooves. The mantis pincers that were comparable to divine blades broke through the void. Before it could even touch the heavenly Qilin, it screamed and rushed into the sky. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. This was a supreme treasure. This pair of large pincers could be used to forge heavy weapons. It was definitely stronger than ordinary divine weapons. Boom! The heavenly Qilin swooped down again, wanting to stomp this large mantis to death. However, the mantis leaned against the mountain range and waved its pincers, not allowing anyone to get close. Screech! The god-slaying eagle flew out and pressed down from both sides. The colorful snake curled up its body and ran near the blue lotus. It flicked its tongue and was ready to attack at any time. Yi Qinghan didn't have to care at all. These divine beasts were enough. The star-twining vine also rushed out of its body. It waved countless vines and entangled the mantis. The vines were constantly being cut, but the mantis didn't care at all. Its main vine wrapped around the two large pincers and wrapped around the mantis with countless vines. Boom! The heavenly Qilin stomped hard and stomped the mantis head into the mountain again. The god-slaying eagle grabbed the two large pincers from both sides and flew into the sky. It soared 1,000 meters and threw the mantis back down. Yi Qinghan took advantage of the time when they were fighting and took away the blue lotus. When he looked up again, the mantis was already dizzy from the fall. It couldn't even stand up, let alone attack or defend. Every time the divine beasts attacked, the mantis would be weakened. In the end, it wanted to escape, but it was kicked away by the heavenly Qilin. Before it could run, it was pulled back by the star-twining vine. In the end, the mantis was divided among the divine beasts, leaving only two large pincers. The heavenly Qilin couldn't destroy them, let alone eat them. Chapter 520. Yi Qinghan picked up the two large pincers and looked at them with satisfaction. These two large pincers were many times sharper than Liang Kuang's and could break divine weapons. This mantis had lived for many years to evolve into a 10th-grade divine beast. Today, it had become a meal for other divine beasts. Its divinity had been divided between the star-twining vine and the heavenly qilin. The powerful priests outside the valley were stunned by Yi Qinghan's divine beast. They were all envious. Yi Qinghan and Medusa did not make a move. They thought they were both Emperor Realm Masters and were just young masters of some aristocratic family. Since they were in the wilderness, they started to have some ideas. They started to call their friends and prepare to snatch Yi Qinghan's divine beast. Soon, 5 priests appeared outside the valley. They all had the same goal: to rob Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! The 5 low-level priests surrounded the valley and blocked Yi Qinghan's escape route. These priests were all born recently. Medusa did not know them at all. However, they were not weak. They were almost as strong as Divine Master Xian. "Young man, this god has taken a fancy to your mounts, the heavenly qilin and the star-twining vine. Give them to this old man and I will reward you with some divine crystals. How about it?" The leader of the priests, a middle-aged man, looked down at Yi Qinghan. His tone was firm and determined. He would not allow any mortal to go against him. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. He did not expect to be targeted by these priests so soon after entering the valley. "Sorry, this god's divine beasts are not for sale." Yi Qinghan refused coldly. The 5 priests showed a mocking and disdainful smile. How could an Emperor Realm Master reject something that a priest had taken a fancy to? "Young man, don't you know who this god is? We are the 5 godly tigers of Shishan. Even the county gods of the major cities and counties have to give in to us. Which family are you from? How dare you reject this old man's good intentions?" The middle-aged man said coldly. "What 5 godly tigers of Shishan? This divine bird has never heard of them. Otherwise, don't blame this divine bird for being rude." The divine bird said arrogantly. Yi Qinghan groaned. Whatever he wanted to say had already been said by the divine bird, so there was no need to say it again. The 5 priests stared at the divine bird with a cold glint in their eyes. The leader recognized the origin of the divine bird and said in surprise, "It's actually a devouring spirit eagle." The other 4 experts could not help but be shocked. They were a little suspicious of Yi Qinghan's background. He had the star-twisting vine, which was the most difficult to raise in the world, the untamed celestial qilin, and 2 low-level god-slaying eagles. Yet, he had managed to raise them to the peak of level 9. If Yi Qinghan's background was simple, they would not believe it. Yi Qinghan frowned as he said, "I have no interest in messing around with you. My divine beast will not be taken out. You'd better leave. In this wilderness, even if I kill you, no one will come looking for trouble with me." "Ah!" The middle-aged man laughed wildly. The other 4 did not give him any face and laughed until they were thrown off their feet. "This old man is Fierce Sky Tiger. I have been in the divine cleansing estate for more than 30,000 years. This is the first time a junior dares to speak to me like this." The middle-aged man was incomparably arrogant. His eyes were cold as he looked down at Yi Qinghan and smiled cruelly. "I gave you face but you don't want it. Then, don't blame me for taking it from you. Just as you said, in this wilderness, no one will come looking for trouble with us even if we kill you." Swish, swish, swish. The other 4 surrounded them and set up a large formation that enveloped the entire valley. Even if the valley was turned upside down, the people outside might not be able to find out. The celestial qilin was overjoyed. It was afraid that these people would not attack. With it and Medusa working together to kill these 5 people, it would be equivalent to having 5 more godheads. "Take it from us?" Yi Qinghan frowned. Medusa did not reveal her true form, so she could at most deal with 2 or 3 people. The celestial qilin could deal with 1, while he and the divine beast could at most deal with 1. "So what if we take it from you? You are courting death. How dare you reject my good intentions? I will kill you all! The fierce sky tiger roared. The 5 tigers attacked at the same time. One went for the celestial Qilin, one went for Medusa, and the rest went for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan felt the space around him solidify. He could not move at all. Against the 3 god priests, he was powerless to resist. Shoo! Shoo! The star-twisting vine exploded with all its strength. It only wanted to delay the other party and give Yi Qinghan a chance to survive. Yi Qinghan only took a few steps back. He clenched his fist and looked forward. He saw the 3 god priests. One suppressed the star-twisting vine, another defeated the god-slaying eagle, and the last one went for Yi Qinghan's true form. Boom! The person charging at Medusa did not know what kind of existence he was facing. She was extremely powerful. She did not even need to defend herself. He reached out to grab Medusa with a cruel smile. However, before his hands could touch Medusa, a pair of jade-like hands pierced into his chest. His body exploded, his godhead was taken away, and his soul was suppressed on the spot. The powerful person's scream was deafening. It alarmed the other 4 god priests. Even the fierce divine tiger was stunned. It forgot to attack Yi Qinghan. Medusa sent the god priest's body flying. In an instant, she came to Yi Qinghan's side. She raised her jade-like hands and grabbed the fierce divine tiger's iron fist. She pressed down hard, forcing the fierce divine tiger to kneel in front of Yi Qinghan. Boom! Yi Qinghan raised his leg and kicked the fierce divine tiger's head. The fierce divine tiger felt as if it was hit by a hammer. Its head was almost broken by Yi Qinghan's kick. The fierce divine tiger coughed out a mouthful of blood. It wanted to break free from Medusa's control. However, the soft jade-like hands seemed to have the power of the heavens. They pressed down on it so hard that it could not move. "Senior, please spare me." The fierce divine tiger realized that Medusa was Yi Qinghan's protector. She was a powerful person. Moreover, she was a medium god priest. "It's too late to realize your mistake now." Medusa's cold gaze pierced through the fierce divine tiger's mind and petrified it. "Medusa! She is Medusa!" The remaining 3 god priests screamed and tried to escape. However, the god priest who was entangled by the celestial Qilin did not have a chance. Its front hooves were like lightning. If it stepped on someone, it would trample them to death. Even a god's body could not withstand such an attack. The star-twining vine also entangled another god priest. It did not care about the consequences. It allowed the god priest to break its vines. The remaining god priest wanted to turn around, but Medusa appeared in front of him. Her jade-green eyes petrified everything. He no longer had any intention to resist. He only wanted to escape. However, he had lost his last hope. Boom! The god priest's body was petrified and fell into the valley. Die! The god priest who was entangled by the star-twining vine was still struggling. However, Medusa pressed him down and petrified him. The last god priest was so frightened that he knelt down and begged, "Lord Medusa, I didn't know that you were here. Please give me a chance. I am willing to submit. I don't need a slave." Medusa rejected him coldly. Boom! The celestial Qilin kicked the god priest's head from behind. The god priest's head exploded. The god priest's divinity fell and was swallowed by the celestial Qilin. The star-twining vine took the opportunity to devour the god priest's body. In just a few breaths, the 5 god priests were so frightened by Medusa that they did not dare to resist. All of them died on the spot. Medusa shattered the god priest's body and took the god priest's divinity. She suppressed his soul and handed it to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan weighed the god priest's divinity in his hand. He counted carefully. He already had 7 or 8 god priests. When he returned, he would be able to double the insane sect's power and become the most powerful force in Xianyue County. Chapter 521. The valley was filled with white fog, and with the camouflage enchantment set up by the priests, no one knew that 5 priests had already died inside. Yi Qinghan held the divinity and pondered for a moment. He decided to break through to the level of a priest first. In this mythical plane, one could not leave without reaching the level of a priest, and Medusa could not protect him at all times. Once he was surrounded by the priests, Medusa would be held back, and Yi Qinghan would not even have the chance to fight back. Yi Qinghan lowered his eyebrows as he pondered. He had just entered the level of a venerable emperor. If he wanted to break through to the level of a priest, the 7 divinities he had were only enough for himself. Moreover, he did not need to refine the divinities, but to refine the divinities into energy, condense his body, and break through to the level of a priest. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground and began to shatter the divinities, turning them into energy for his own use. He was the only one in the mythical plane who did such a wasteful thing. The star-twisting vine and celestial qilin drooled as they stared at the divinities in Yi Qinghan's hands. Medusa stood beside Yi Qinghan. Not only did she have to guard against external enemies, but she also had to worry about the 2 divine beasts killing her master. The divine bird was also worried that these 2 fellows would act recklessly, so it lured the star-twisting vine and celestial qilin out of the valley. The 3 divine beasts wreaked havoc in the forest, and the priests could only run away when they saw them. With the divine bird leading the way, they had learned how to ambush. Once a priest was alone and blocked by them, he would definitely die. Yi Qinghan was currently absorbing the boundless divine power from the divinities, condensing his body. His body was sparkling and translucent, and he was fully focused on breaking through to the level of a priest. His body was of the 5 elements constitution, and he needed countless resources to reach the same level as others. Others might only need 1 divinity to break through to the level of a priest, and they did not need to condense another divinity. However, Yi Qinghan was different. If he wanted to break through to the level of a priest, he needed 10 times more resources than others, and he had to condense his own divinity. Boom! Boom! Yi Qinghan's blood surged, and his draconic blood roared. His godly aura grew stronger as he absorbed the water godhood, followed by the fire godhood. Yi Qinghan crushed the fire godhood and turned it into god power. His fleshly body was completely refined into a godly body. The 3rd earth godhead turned into divine power and poured into his body, filling him with divine power as he began to break through to the divine priest realm. Yi Qinghan's hands continued to form seals, not allowing any energy to be wasted. The Emperor Qi in his body started to transform into divine power and rushed into his metal godhead. The godhead was transparent and hovered above the sea of sufferings. The divine Qi in the valley formed a whirlpool and rushed into Yi Qinghan's consciousness. Yi Qinghan turned into a divine crystal and absorbed endless divine Qi to derive divine power. His entire body became transparent. Every meridian in his limbs and bones became clear. Yi Qinghan could even see every corner of his body clearly, and even the slightest flaw was refined by him. The 4th godhead was swallowed into Yi Qinghan's stomach and turned into boundless energy that exploded in his stomach. Yi Qinghan's body almost exploded. Humph! Yi Qinghan groaned and his body trembled. Veins popped out all over his body as his divine power surged. The metal godhead started to absorb the divine power in his body and stored it in the godhead. He was still in the emperor realm. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and blood spurted out from his 7 orifices, but he still couldn't enter the divine priest realm. Only when one's comprehension of the heaven and earth had reached the pinnacle and the great Tao of heaven and earth had acknowledged them could they become a god shrine. Yi Qinghan's strength was comparable to a god shrine, but his soul was not strong enough. He couldn't obtain the acknowledgement of heaven and earth. Yi Qinghan's divine sense spread out and rushed to the top of the clouds to comprehend the ethereal great Tao. His metal origin was pushed to the limit, and he could even clearly feel the metal origin in the mountain rock. He could mobilize it with a wave of his hand. To become a divine priest realm, one's origin of laws or great Tao had to reach the realm of perfection. Every godhead contained a law or origin at the realm of perfection, and the strongest divine priest realm's godhead contained a certain great Tao at the realm of perfection. Yi Qinghan's comprehension couldn't reach the realm of perfection, so he could only absorb the origin of laws from the 5 tigers of Shishan's godheads. However, they only cultivated some unorthodox Tao, and none of them had a great Tao origin. The impact of the divine power became stronger and stronger, and Yi Qinghan's body was covered in blood. The divine power in his body began to tear his body apart, and the divine blood sprinkled on the ground like precious medicine. The vitality in the surroundings became rich and boundless, and the tree instantly grew dozens of meters tall and several meters thick. Medusa frowned as she looked at Yi Qinghan's pained expression. She couldn't help but feel sad that she couldn't do anything to help. How can I make the origin of metal reach the realm of perfection? Yi Qinghan's soul felt like it was being torn apart. At this moment, he could either give up on breaking through to the divine priest realm or continue trying, but sooner or later, he would be torn to shreds by the abstruse laws and great Tao profundities. Giving up now was too much of a pity. After all, he had wasted 4 godheads. This was equivalent to 4 divine priests, and in any city or county, it was a considerable force. Yi Qinghan clearly didn't want to give up. Shua. Yi Qinghan summoned the blue lotus and swallowed it into his stomach. His chaotic soul instantly calmed down. The profundities of water's origin appeared in his mind. A single drop of water could transform into an ocean. Water was the origin of life, and all life required water. Yi Qinghan now felt like he could control the life and death of the trees in a radius of hundreds of miles. He could instantly draw out all the water from the trees and wipe away their vitality. All the origin laws and profundities reached the realm of perfection for the sake of control. Control. Being able to control the origin of water and thus the life and death of others was the realm of perfection for the great Tao of origin. Yi Qinghan was suddenly enlightened. With a wave of his hand, all the trees in the valley withered and the flowers withered. With a single thought, they became boundless with vitality. The 5 elements could be interchanged. Fire could burn people to death, but it could also save them. Water, if lacking it, would definitely die, but with enough water, it could also kill a person. Any element, when cultivated to the extreme, could kill. Whoosh! Heavy rain poured down in the valley. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The first element that Yi Qinghan comprehended to the realm of perfection wasn't the origin of metal, but the origin of water. From there, he comprehended the 5 elements to perfection. As long as he had enough energy, he could instantly condense the 5 elements' godheads. Yi Qinghan didn't just enter the realm of perfection for the 5 elements. Wind, thunder, lightning, and clouds all entered the realm of perfection. The lightning tribulation of the god shrine realm formed quickly, but it disappeared even faster. Yi Qinghan blended into the lightning tribulation, making it unable to find a target. In the end, it had no choice but to dissipate. Medusa looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. She had lived for countless years, but she had never seen anyone transcend a tribulation like this. Whoosh! Divine light bathed his body. Heaven and earth recognized Yi Qinghan's god shrine realm. Boundless divine energy gathered, filling the metal origin godhead to the brim. However, the large amount of divine energy still couldn't be stored. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground and began to condense the second godhead, the water godhead. Chapter 522. Whoosh! In the valley, a divine light soared into the sky, breaking the shackles. It was as if a powerful god had triggered a vision of heaven and earth, alarming all the gods within 100 miles. Who is this? Such pure divinity, it's the metal origin divinity. No, it's the water origin divinity. Hundreds of miles away from the valley, dozens of gods looked up in surprise. They found that the divinity above the valley was so pure that there were no impurities. But the strange thing was, there were two different kinds of divinity erupting from that divinity. How could a divinity have two kinds of divinity? And each divinity was so pure that there were no impurities? This person has the divinity of metal and water elements. After thousands of years, a dual-element divinity has appeared in the territory of the divine Mu estate. Who is it? The middle-level god-priest who caught Supreme God Profound frowned and looked into the distance. He thought for a long time but couldn't remember when such a dual-element god-priest appeared in the territory of the divine Mu estate. Beside him stood a dozen low-level gods. One of them was Supreme God Profound. This middle-level god-priest was the headmaster of the Slave Master School under the divine Mu estate. The Slave Master School was one of the three major forces under the divine Mu estate, ranked third. Even though it was ranked third, it was still much more powerful than those county gods. This time, he didn't do it for himself, but for his precious grandson to marry the seventh princess of the divine Mu estate. Marriage with the divine Mu estate. This time, it wasn't only the Slave Master School that came. The first-ranked Extreme Path, Immortal Island, and the second-ranked Beast Master School also came. But until now, there was no trace of them. The Slave Master sect was a sect that suppressed the powerful beings of the priesthood. They enslaved the priesthood by controlling the souls of the priesthood. Every lower-level priesthood had several priesthood-level slaves. The master of the Slave Master sect had a total of 3 middle-level priesthoods and more than 100 lower-level priesthood slaves. But the Beast Master School was even more terrifying. It was rumored that the headmaster of the Beast Master School was a top-level beast tamer. He could tame a level 11 middle-level divine beast with a wave of his hand. However, level 11 wild beasts weren't easy to find. The beast-taming school didn't have a school full of mythological beasts, otherwise they would have been the #1 school in the world. The Extreme Tao Immortal Island was an illusory force. It was said that only the master of the divine Mu estate had seen the people of the Extreme Tao Immortal Island. The strength of the Extreme Tao Immortal Island was not inferior to the divine Mu estate. Moreover, they had the Extreme Tao Immortal Island. The master of the divine Mu estate was also an Extreme Tao Immortal Island. He was half a step away from becoming a superior god priest. Both of them had been priests for more than 1,000,000 years. Among the three factions, the Slave Master School was the weakest. After all, many of the factions had a strong foundation. Normally, there were no priests for the slave god to capture and enslave. Like the profound divine sovereign, he was an official of the divine Mu estate. The slave god would only use him temporarily. The profound divine sovereign's eyes lit up. There weren't many metal quintessence godheads. At least in the divine Mu estate, there were only a few people with metal quintessence godheads. However, they were all top-level existences like the county god of De Cheng. They wouldn't appear here. Only one person could appear here, and that was Yi Qinghan. He knew that Yi Qinghan had metal quintessence godhead. After all, he had given Yi Qinghan a metal quintessence godhead. The profound divine sovereign calmed himself down. He wasn't sure if that person was Yi Qinghan. Once he was sure, he would definitely lead the slave god to Yi Qinghan. He hoped that Yi Qinghan would help him escape the slave god's control. The slave god wouldn't dare to enslave him forever, but he would dare to kill him and take his quintessence. He must escape the slave god's control before leaving the mystic Moon Mountain range. Yi Qinghan, this old man's life depends on you. If you can destroy the Sky Wolf sect in one night, you might be able to make the slave god give in. The profound divine sovereign murmured. His eyes flashed as he looked at the slave god's frown. He bowed and said, "Master slave god, I know where that person came from. I beg you to give me a chance to make a contribution." The slave god looked at the profound divine sovereign and asked curiously, "Who is it?" As far as this old man knows, within the divine Mu estate, there are no juniors other than those with metal quintessence godheads. There are no dual-element cultivators. This person is Yi Qinghan from a small plane. He just broke through to the divine shrine realm. He has no background and no background. He has been developing in this kid's mystic Moon County and founded the Insane School in the Western Gorge Mountain. Master Slave God, if you can enslave him, he will be a great help in the future. The profound divine sovereign didn't know if that person was Yi Qinghan or not. Regardless, he had to try. Even if he wasn't, he could use that person to fight the slave god and escape. If Yi Qinghan was Yi Qinghan, he would definitely save him because of the eternal covenant. If he couldn't save him, he could escape on his own with the super long-distance teleportation formation. The slave god's eyes brightened. The slave master school lacked talented people like this the most. If he could enslave a metal quintessence godhead, the slave master school would have a top expert in 10,000 years. Is that true? The slave god asked. The profound divine sovereign bowed almost 90 degrees and said humbly, "How dare I lie to Master Slave God? All of you follow me." The slave god rushed towards Yi Qinghan with a flash of light. The dozens of priests behind him didn't have their own consciousness like the profound divine sovereign. They were completely enslaved. They had no background and were not talented. The slave god enslaved them directly. Once he got the 7 extinction grass, these people would die and he wouldn't bring them back to the desire god sect. However, the profound divine sovereign was different. He couldn't enslave her, he could only control her. Otherwise, if someone sent a message to the divine Mu estate and told them that he enslaved an official county god, the divine Mu estate would definitely hold him accountable. Xiao xiao xiao. Although the priests were enslaved, their positions were still the same. They rushed towards the valley where Yi Qinghan was at. Yi Qinghan didn't know that the profound divine sovereign had lured the powerful slave god here. Otherwise, he would have left earlier. If she fought with the slave god now, Medusa's identity would be exposed and she might not even win. Yi Qinghan was still condensing the water origin godhead and comprehending the metal origin godhead. At this point, he could already cultivate the metal origin godhead. The metal origin godhead's attack power was extremely strong, and in terms of battle prowess, a god priest with the metal origin godhead was much stronger than others. This was the reason why there were so few god priests with the metal origin godhead in the ancient times. Medusa saw that Yi Qinghan was still condensing the godhead and his cultivation was getting stronger and stronger. She didn't disturb Yi Qinghan's comprehension. Instead, she frowned when she sensed a powerful aura rapidly approaching from a few hundred miles away. A medium-level priest. And his cultivation is no weaker than mine. Medusa's expression was serious. She wanted to wake Yi Qinghan up, but was afraid of delaying his comprehension. She clenched her fists tightly and emitted a terrifying aura. She wanted to intimidate the intruder so he wouldn't start a war between the medium-level priests. The slave god was still 100 miles away when he sensed Medusa's warning. He frowned and looked at profound divine sovereign coldly. "Kid, you dare to trick me?" He clearly has a medium-level priest as his Tao protector. Why do you say he has no background? Profound divine sovereign's heart turned cold. She quickly knelt down and explained, "That person also came from a small realm and has a good relationship with Yi Qinghan. However, his battle strength is average and he is definitely not a match for you. You can take both of them and there won't be any trouble. I only ask that you take the 2 god slaves and spare my life." Profound divine sovereign didn't know the origin of the medium-level priest, nor did she know that she was the silent woman beside Yi Qinghan. She was just making things up so that the slave god could approach Yi Qinghan with peace of mind. The slave god was cautious. Someone who could become a medium-level priest was definitely someone with extraordinary talent. Normally, there wouldn't be a war between medium-level priests because the slightest carelessness could lead to death. Only those who were truly powerful could ignore the other medium-level priests. For example, the Master of the Extreme Tao Island and the Master of the Divine Cleansing Palace. However, the slave god couldn't ignore all the medium-level priests. Even the headmaster of the beast-taming school couldn't do that. However, the slave god wasn't willing to give up on a medium-level priest who had no foundation and a gold origin priest. He gritted his teeth and brought a dozen lower-level priests closer to the valley. The celestial Qilin and the star-twisting vine sensed danger approaching. They immediately returned and hid on the side, waiting for the enemy to arrive. When the slave god was about 10 miles away from the valley, Yi Qinghan was awakened by the superior aura. He opened his eyes slightly and looked into the distance vigilantly. It was too late to leave now. "Who is it?" Yi Qinghan looked at Medusa and asked in a low voice. Medusa shook her head. The slave god sect didn't have many years of history, at most 300 to 500,000 years. At that time, Medusa was already in the endless plains. She couldn't have known too many people. The only people she knew were the powerful masters and the top existences of the 3 divine kingdoms. However, their cultivation was already far ahead of hers. "It's a medium-level priest. I don't have the confidence to kill him. Once the battle starts, my identity will be exposed. You should leave first," Medusa said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan frowned. How could he let Medusa be surrounded again? He quickly summoned the divine bird, hoping to use a trick to intimidate this powerful medium-level priest. The divine bird flew to Yi Qinghan's shoulder and said seriously, "Even the medium-level priests know this divine bird's background. It won't be easy to trick them. However, I will try my best." Medusa's aura was restrained. Her eyes were covered by the 5 elements again. Her appearance changed a little. Outsiders couldn't see her identity at all. However, once the battle started, her identity would be exposed. Yi Qinghan pulled Medusa over. He didn't want her to make a move. The serval god surrounded the valley with more than 10 god priests. He looked down at Yi Qinghan from the sky and realized that these 2 people were indeed unfamiliar. They weren't famous people and felt that Divine Lord Xian wasn't lying. He nodded in satisfaction. Sovereign God Mystic saw Yi Qinghan and was immediately excited. She thought to herself, "It's really him. I didn't expect him to reach the realm of a lower-level priest in just a few months. He even has 2 godhoods. Moreover, the woman beside him is indeed not simple. She must be a protector sent by the faction behind Yi Qinghan." However, Yi Qinghan was dissatisfied when he saw Sovereign God Mystic. This bastard obviously wanted to use him to escape from the slave god's control. He actually led the danger here. How dare he? "Master Slave God, this is the person. They don't have any background. You can use the slave god divine technique to enslave them for your own use." Sovereign God Mystic's back was facing Yi Qinghan as she spoke to the slave god respectfully. Although Sovereign God Mystic seemed to be flattering the slave god, she was actually reminding Yi Qinghan of the identity of the person in front of him. Yi Qinghan was a smart person. He knew that Sovereign God Mystic was reminding him based on her identity and the name of her secret technique. He couldn't help but snort coldly. He didn't accept her kindness. Chapter 523. Yi Qinghan looked at Senior God Mystic's back and wanted to kick him away. The slave god stared at Yi Qinghan and Medusa with scorching excitement in its eyes, as if it had just seen a pair of priceless treasures. "I'm the sect master of the slave master sect. You can call me the slave god. How should I address you?" The slave god looked down at Yi Qinghan and Medusa. Although he was confident, he was also cautious. It was impossible for a medium god to appear in a small realm, so he wanted to know more. I'm Yi Qinghan, and this is Yi Qinghan. Why did you barge into my place of meditation? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. The corner of the serval god's mouth curled up slightly. Just now, I sensed a rare gold origin divinity soaring to the sky. I was a little curious, so I came here to investigate. This is the Crescent Moon mountain range, not the insane sect. How can you say that I barged into your meditation place? My friend, you're a sect master. Don't you know that it's disrespectful to barge into someone's place of meditation? I've already warned you in advance, but you still insist on doing what you want. Do you think that I'm not your opponent? Medusa frowned and her aura surged. She wanted to intimidate the slave god. Boom. Yi Qinghan's aura surged. Although he had just become a lower god, he was stronger than some of the older gods. He was even stronger than Senior God Mystic. Senior God Xian was overjoyed. He thought to himself, this old man was right. A Western Gorge mountain in exchange for an eternal covenant with such a genius. My Xian Yu County will definitely be glorious. Who knows, I might even be promoted to prefecture master one day. Yi Qinghan's gold origin divinity and water origin divinity intertwined, and boundless divine power surrounded him. Murderous intent radiated from him, and he didn't show any signs of cowardice. When dealing with someone like the slave god, it was impossible to intimidate him unless one was truly capable. Medusa's aura surged and pressed down on the slave god. Thud, thud, thud. Although the enslaved priests were no longer timid, they could not withstand the aura of Medusa's top-notch mid-level priests. They kept retreating and bumped into the rocks. Only then did the serval god realize that Medusa's cultivation was in no way inferior to his own. Yi Qinghan probably wouldn't lose to these dozen or so god-slaves either. In addition to the celestial Qilin and the star-twisting vine hiding in ambush, it was hard to tell who would emerge victorious in a fight. Moreover, Senior God Mystic would definitely choose to escape when both sides were injured. He would definitely not help him sincerely. The heavenly Qilin and the star-entangling vine were clearly unable to escape the slave god's notice, and he said in a cold voice, "Looks like you want to compete with me? That depends on your attitude," Yi Qinghan said forcefully. Hiss! Sensing that it had been discovered, the heavenly Qilin jumped out forcefully and stomped its front hooves non-stop in an extremely arrogant manner. The star-entangling vine waved its vines and covered the sky, almost encircling the entire valley. Once caught by the vines, there was no chance of escaping. Even if it was a priest, it could still hold him back for a while. The divine bird felt that it was about time to negotiate, so it raised its head and mocked, "Serval god, if you want to enslave my master, then that's ridiculous. The serval god divine art is all about enslaving the soul of a priest, but do you think you can enslave my master or Master Yi Xian? Your soul might be able to win against my master, but to win against Master Yi Xian? That's just wishful thinking. Don't go for wool and come home shorn. You might end up being enslaved by us instead." The serval god's pupils shrunk as he stared at the divine bird and said in surprise, "Spirit-devouring godly eagle? Oh, so you know this divine bird. Looks like you're not stupid. Since you know this divine bird, then you should know that there are countless secret techniques in my head. The serval god divine art isn't that hard to cultivate, but it's about refining the soul, and refining the aura. Even my master doesn't like to learn such a trivial secret technique." The divine bird mocked in disdain. The serval god's aura turned cold. Although the serval god divine art was also a minor technique, it was at least in the top 300 among the 3,000 minor techniques. Yet, it was worthless to the divine bird. However, looking at Yi Qinghan's attitude, he really didn't care about the serval god divine art at all. The serval god couldn't help but feel worried, and his desire to attack became smaller and smaller. Yi Qinghan saw the change in the serval god's expression and said in disdain, "The serval god divine art is also flawed and fatal. If you meet someone with the soul of one with the world, he can enslave you. As long as he knows the serval god divine art, even if he doesn't have the soul of one with the world, with Yi Xian's strength, I think it won't be a problem to enslave you." But, the serval god immediately asked, "But what? But I don't want to fight to the death with you. After all, my target isn't you, but the 7 extinction grass. If you don't provoke me, I won't fight with you. However, if you dare to provoke me, I will definitely disappoint you today." Yi Qinghan warned coldly. Yi Qinghan really didn't want to fight today. Otherwise, he wouldn't have wasted time talking nonsense with the serval god. He could have just let Medusa fight with him. However, with divine profound here, he couldn't kill him too. Moreover, if the serval god had the chance to escape, the insane sect would be implicated. The serval god's expression turned ugly. He wasn't sure if Medusa knew the serval god divine art. If she did, he would be enslaved and his life would be over. This old man is only here to find out which genius has cultivated the metal origin divine art. I have no intention of fighting with you. This old man will leave now. If we meet again in the future, I will definitely accompany you with wine. I hope both of you won't blame this old man for his rude behavior today." The serval god finally took a step back and didn't want to fight with his life on the line. "Wait!" Yi Qinghan's attitude turned serious as he shouted coldly. The serval god's expression turned ugly as he asked unhappily, "Yi Qinghan, this old man has already apologized. Do you want me to kneel down and admit my mistake?" Yi Qinghan looked at divine profound with disdain and said coldly, "There's no need for that. However, I hate it when people betray me. Leave divine profound here." Divine Profound pretended to panic and begged, "Your Excellency, please don't leave me behind." The serval god looked at Divine Profound. He was an official after all. He couldn't kill or enslave him in public. There was no need to offend Yi Qinghan for him. He waved his hand and suppressed Divine Profound before throwing him to Yi Qinghan. He then cupped his fists and said, "Today's matter was due to him bewitching me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have disturbed you. These 10 enslaved gods will be this old man's compensation. I'll take my leave now." The serval god left Divine Profound behind without even taking his slaves with him. A group of slaves had no thoughts and no consciousness. Without the serval god's control, they were just a bunch of puppets, just like trash. Yi Qinghan didn't know the serval god divine art and didn't need so many gods. He killed more than 10 of them and took their godhoods before throwing their bodies to the star-twisting vine. The bodies of more than 10 gods and 3 or 4 godhoods were enough for it to become a lower god. Chapter 524. In the valley, the celestial Qilin, the star-twisting vine, the multicolored snake, and the god-slaying eagle shared the corporeal bodies of more than 10 god priests equally. Their divinities were also distributed to each of them. Yi Qinghan could still be considered fair, but he still wanted to nurture the god-slaying eagle alone. After all, they were the most loyal. Yi Qinghan gave 2 god-slaying eagles 2 god-slaying eagles, and they were very suitable for them. The god-slaying eagles naturally knew that Yi Qinghan valued them, and they became even more loyal. Supreme God Mystic was sweating profusely. He still hadn't recovered from the shock. "Brother Yi, thank you for saving my life. I was almost done for this time." Supreme God Mystic smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan squinted at Supreme God Mystic. Although he was unhappy, he couldn't help but admire this old fox. He was so cunning that he chose to take the risk to ask for his help. Sensing Yi Qinghan's anger, Sovereign God Mystic hurriedly explained, "Don't be angry, fellow Taoist. Actually, I know that you definitely have a life-saving trump card. Otherwise, you wouldn't have led him to you. How do you know that I have a life-saving trump card?" Yi Qinghan frowned. This old man was too cunning. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't have given it away so easily, but he gave it to Yi Qinghan without hesitation. This was already unbelievable. Cough cough. Do you remember the first time you met me? You were holding a long-distance teleportation formation in your hand? I know that with that gold plate, there are less than 10 people in the entire mythical realm who can kill you. Your background is definitely not simple, Supreme God Mystic said honestly. Yi Qinghan was suddenly enlightened. He finally understood why this old fox was so generous. Brother Yi, you're also here for the 7 Extremes grass, right? I've been in Xianwei County for more than 100,000 years. When I was young, I often went to Xianwei Mountain, so I'm very familiar with it. I know where to find the 7 Extremes grass. Supreme God Mystic said flatteringly. Bring me there, Yi Qinghan said in a muffled voice. Divine Lord Mystic did not say much. He led the way and sped into the depth. Yi Qinghan and Medusa looked at each other before they mounted the celestial Qilin and followed closely behind. The other divine beasts hid in Yi Qinghan's body. The forest and mountain range flew backward, verdant and lush, and the miasma killed people without leaving a trace. The terrain here was complex, and any kind of small creature could explode and kill people. Even the priests could not escape the attack. The celestial Qilin divine beast rampaged around without any fear. Sometimes it would surpass divine master mystic, and sometimes it would crush a ferocious beast and devour its life essence. This was also the first time Yi Qinghan had seen a carnivorous horse-like creature. Indeed, divine beasts were all strange and incomprehensible. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan and the others could be considered a decent force. Divine Lord Mystic was a high-level existence among the lower-level god priests, and Yi Qinghan's aura was not bad either. In addition, Medusa's body was emitting a faintly discernible aura of a middle-level god priest, and the celestial Qilin divine beast. Normally, no one would be willing to provoke them. The 3 of them crossed dozens of valleys and appeared in a foggy forest. The fog was so white that they could not see their fingers in front of them. The poisonous gas could kill most creatures, and there were no birds or large creatures. There were only a few poisonous snakes that bared their fangs. Wherever they passed, the poisonous grass would wither. It was disgusting. Divine Lord Mystic stood outside the valley and did not dare to go deeper. She turned to look at Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice, "This is the land of absolute yin and absolute yang. Yin and yang do not exist here, and it is covered in a miasma all year round. Other than cloud beasts, only poisonous snakes and plants can survive here. Even the ancient trees are filled with poisonous gas." Yi Qinghan stared at the foggy land. The poisonous gas here could kill people without leaving a trace. There were eerie black skeletons everywhere that had been corroded by the poisonous gas. This poisonous gas can corrode one's godhead, so the god worshippers do not dare to go too deep. Taoist Yi, there is definitely the 7N grass here, but I do not recommend you to go in. You can search outside. If you can find it, it will be your fortune. If you can't find it, don't force it. Divine Lord Mystic reminded him. Yi Qinghan thought for a while and said to himself, "My 5 elements body can protect my godhead. The 5 elements can alternate, so there is no need to worry. Can you go in?" Yi Qinghan looked at Medusa. If Medusa could go in, they would have a higher chance of getting the 7N grass. Medusa nodded. Her original body was also a snake, and she was a poisonous creature. This 7N grounds would not have much effect on her. "You guys wait for us here. We will definitely come out in a month at the latest." Yi Qinghan looked at Divine Lord Mystic and the Celestial Qilin and said in a low voice, "There are god worshippers everywhere. Do not run around." The Celestial Qilin rushed into the distance happily. It did not care about Yi Qinghan's request. Divine Lord Mystic hid outside. After experiencing death once, she did not dare to run around this time. If she met the slave god again, she would not be able to escape. Yi Qinghan and Medusa went in hand in hand. They each guarded one side and were very cautious. This valley was the cloud beast's territory. Ordinary god worshippers would not dare to enter. Sha sha sha, there were eerie black skeletons everywhere. They were all deeply poisoned. In the end, they did not have the strength to escape and died tragically in this wilderness. Yi Qinghan and Medusa stepped on the brittle skeletons. In the land of extreme yin and extreme yang, the more poisonous the place, the easier it was for the seven-end grass to grow. Yi Qinghan released the multicolored snake. It was like a fish in water. This was its paradise. Hiss hiss hiss, the multicolored snake was very fast. Yi Qinghan followed it and went in deeper. He held the mantis' huge pincers in his hand and used them as a big knife. He advanced step by step. Divine sense was not very useful here. It was already very powerful to be able to sense things 100 meters away. The key was that the poisonous gas here was corrosive to divine sense. The 5 elements intertwined and defended each other. Yi Qinghan's divine light filled the sky and kept the poisonous gas out of his body. Medusa was very calm. Her body could even actively absorb the poisonous gas. However, it did not affect her at all. Whoosh! The multicolored snake suddenly sped up and rushed forward. A poisonous snake blocked its way. It was as fast as lightning. They fought directly. The multicolored snake swallowed the poisonous snake and spat out its bones in the blink of an eye. It was very satisfied and rushed into the depth. In front of a valley, the multicolored snake seemed to have smelled the aura of a treasure. It rushed into the valley crazily. Yi Qinghan followed closely behind. The divine bird looked around and could not feel any aura of a treasure. Its advantage was suppressed by the poisonous gas here. Why is this guy crazy? Why do I feel that something terrifying is watching us? The divine bird asked Yi Qinghan uncertainly. Yi Qinghan's nerves were tense. He also felt a murderous aura shrouding him. It was as if a pair of eyes were staring at him. It might be a cloud beast. This thing is small and exquisite. It looks like a small cloud and a little like a 1-foot-long kitten. However, its power is not inferior to that of an intermediate god. Medusa also tensed up her divine sense. She did not underestimate the cloud beast. This is only the periphery of the 7 extinction grounds. Cloud beasts shouldn't appear here, right? The divine bird did not want to see the cloud beast. People who saw cloud beasts were usually dead. Even powerful creatures were the same. People bitten by cloud beasts were not likely to survive. Its poisonous gas was much more poisonous than the 7 extinction snakes' poison. There was an antidote for the 7 extinction snakes' poison, but there was no antidote for the cloud beast's poison. One had to rely on pure divine power to expel the poisonous gas. Just as Yi Qinghan and Medusa approached the valley, a blue light shot out from the top of a mountain. A fist-sized feline appeared in front of Yi Qinghan as fast as lightning. Chapter 525. Yi Qinghan's pupils constricted. He took a step back with Medusa and looked at the little kitten warily. The little kitten looked extremely cute, but it was extremely powerful. Its sharp claws emitted a cold light that could steal one's soul. It was so fast that even Yi Qinghan didn't know how it appeared in front of him. The multicolored snake arched its body and retracted its head, retreating cautiously. "Can we communicate?" Yi Qinghan whispered. It was obvious that he was asking the divine bird. This fellow knew the ancient beast language and could communicate with ordinary creatures. The divine bird looked at the cloud beast in a flattering manner, but didn't dare to get too close. The cloud beast was very resistant to the divine bird because it was also a powerful inherited beast. It understood that the devouring spirit eagle was a weirdo and an untrustworthy beast. Meow, the little cloud beast was like a ball. It bared its teeth, its eerie white teeth sparkling like white jade. Its pearl-like eyes stared at Yi Qinghan and Medusa, drooling. This fellow specializes in eating divine sparks. It's not easy to deal with. It seems to have taken a fancy to your divine sparks. The divine bird trembled. Foodies could only be tempted with food, but no one would be so generous as to use divine sparks to raise a fist-sized divine beast. But it's a bit afraid of Medusa. Perhaps we can scare it away, the divine bird suggested. How many divine sparks can this fellow eat in a day? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. 1 every 3 to 5 days. It doesn't seem like much, but over time, who can afford to raise it? By the time it grows to become an intermediate god, it'll be 1 every 3 to 5 days. Master, don't even think about raising it. A single star-twisting vine is enough for me to serve, the divine bird said hurriedly. 1 every 3 to 5 days wasn't much. Yi Qinghan stared at the little cloud beast in front of him. With a tremble of his finger, a lesser god spark appeared in his hand. He spread out his hand and gestured for the cloud beast to come over. The cloud beast was very vigilant. It gradually approached and suddenly exploded with extreme speed. It held the divine spark in its mouth and turned to flee to a distant tree. It swallowed the divine spark in one gulp and let out a sound that sounded like laughter. Meow, meow, meow. The cloud beast seemed to be mocking Yi Qinghan with a funny expression. Surprisingly, Medusa did not reveal any hostility. Instead, she revealed an otherworldly smile. Yi Qinghan was stunned. The cloud beast was indeed extremely fast. He did not even realize how the cloud beast had taken the godhead from him. You're really wasteful. Cloud beasts are called cloud beasts because they're as elusive as the clouds, and they're not easy to tame. Other than godhoods, they can only consume top-grade divine medicines. No one can afford to raise them, so why did you waste a godhood? Now, not only did you fail to please him, you're being laughed at like an idiot. Tsk, are you really my master? The divine bird scolded in exasperation. Yi Qinghan smiled and shook his head. A little cutie like this would be best if he could bring it back to Emperor Yi as a spiritual pet. Even if he couldn't bring it back, there was no need to make such a cute little thing so hostile. Forget it, I'll give it 2 godhoods. Consider it a good karma. Yi Qinghan took out another godhood and gestured for the cloud beast to take it. Medusa also had a faint smile on her face, not showing any hostility. It seemed that she also liked this cloud beast. The cloud beast laughed mockingly at first, but when it saw that Yi Qinghan was not angry and even took out another godhood, it couldn't help but be stunned. Whoosh! The cloud beast took the godhood again and stood on the treetop with the godhood in its arms, looking down at Yi Qinghan. Its face and body were bunched together like a fat ball. No expression could be seen on its face. Cloud beast, we're only here to look for the 7 extremes grass. We'll leave immediately after we find it. I hope you won't cause trouble. Before I leave, I'll give you another godhood, Yi Qinghan said softly. The cloud beast nodded. It could actually understand human language. Meow, meow, meow. The cloud beast hugged the godhood and turned to leave. It turned back every 3 steps and gestured for Yi Qinghan to follow it. Eh? This thing wants us to follow it, and it's showing gratitude? The divine bird murmured in surprise. Meow. The cloud beast roared angrily and bared its teeth at the divine bird. It waved its front legs, its tiny claws capable of shattering rocks. The divine bird curled its lips, unwilling to provoke this bad-tempered cloud beast. Seeing that the divine bird was silent, the cloud beast gestured for Yi Qinghan to follow it again. Yi Qinghan and Medusa looked at each other in surprise. Could it be that 3 godhoods could be exchanged for the 7 extremes grass? The 7 extremes grass was equivalent to an intermediate godhood. 1 intermediate godhood could be exchanged for countless lesser godhoods. Rustle! Yi Qinghan and Medusa sped up and chased after the cloud beast with all their might. The cloud beast was too fast. Even if it was only using half of its strength, It was comparable to Yi Qinghan's fastest speed. Even Wind Mark couldn't catch up to it. The multicolored snake rushed to Yi Qinghan's waist and coiled up. It followed them into the Seven Extremes ground. The Seven Extremes grounds wasn't just a sacred place for the Seven Extremes snake to cultivate. It was also the multicolored snake's favorite place. The poison there could help it quickly become a 10th-rank divine beast. Once it entered the divine realm, there would be a world of difference in its strength. The cloud beast went a long way in, and the poison became heavier. Yi Qinghan's 5 elements spread out and intertwined around his divine body, blocking all divinity. The multicolored snake also actively helped Yi Qinghan absorb the poison, so there was no danger at all. In the pitch-black mountain range, not even bones could be seen. Very few creatures could reach this place. It was a paradise for poisonous snakes and cloud beasts. Meow. The cloud beast waved its tiny claws and pointed into the depths, constantly growling. The divine bird said excitedly, "The 3 divine sparks weren't wasted." It said that the 7 Extremes grass is here. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. No wonder even the prefecture lord wanted to buy the 7 Extremes grass at such a high price. The cloud beast's territory was already very big, and with the clouds and mist, it was difficult to move around. The poison was very thick, and ordinary people couldn't enter. Even if a top-notch divine being entered, they wouldn't be able to find the 7 Extremes grass in a short period of time. Meow. The cloud beast tried a few times, but in the end, it chose to continue leading the way. Yi Qinghan saw the cloud beast's subtle change and immediately became vigilant. The cloud beast didn't seem to want to enter this place, which meant that there were other creatures here that could threaten its life. Medusa also saw the cloud beast's change in mood. She looked at Yi Qinghan and said gently, "Be careful. This place should be very dangerous." In the 7 Extremes grounds, yin, yang, man, beast, god, and Tao of heaven and earth were all eliminated. Only the powerful 7 Extremes snakes could survive here. The 7 Extremes snakes were also divided into rank. Some 7 Extremes snakes were rank 12 divine beasts, like real divine dragons. They could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. They could summon the clouds and summon the rain. The 7 Extremes grounds wasn't very big, so there weren't any rank 12 Extremes snakes here. However, there were definitely rank 11 Extremes snakes. Otherwise, the cloud beast wouldn't be so afraid. In the depths, there were poisonous snakes everywhere. The 7 Extremes grass grew very luxuriantly. The thicker the poison, the better the 7 Extremes grass grew, and the stronger the medicinal effects. However, there was a 7 Extremes snake near every 7 Extremes grass. Its body was black, and the snake's forked tongue constantly. Chapter 526. The cloud beast carefully moved back and forth between the branches. Its large eyes were bright, and its sharp claws tore through the tree bark that was as hard as a mountain rock. Even though the cloud beast was strong, it did not harm the 7 demise snakes. It allowed them to circle around the tree. Most of the 7 demise snakes were about 1 meter long. They could change their skin at will, just like chameleons. They would change their color to whatever they got close to. It was easy to camouflage. If one did not look carefully, they would not be discovered even if they appeared on top of one's head. Yi Qinghan's scalp went numb. He looked at the countless 7 demise snakes clinging to the branches. They were like withered branches, but at a glance, he could clearly see their tongues sticking out. They were extremely poisonous. Countless 7 demise snakes gathered together. It was extremely disgusting. Yi Qinghan scratched the goosebumps on his skin. He scratched his head and took a deep breath. He wished he could kill these damned 7 demise snakes. The divine bird was jealous of these snakes. It had already hidden in Yi Qinghan's body. Even the god-slaying eagle was very careful. They were the natural enemies of snakes. However, if there were too many of them, the snakes could devour them. Don't attack them. Follow me. Medusa said in a low voice. Medusa emitted the aura of an ancient divine snake, intimidating the 7 demise snakes. The snake's level was not very high. However, as a rank 12 divine beast, it could still suppress these rank 9 poisonous snake. A large number of 7 demise snakes began to retreat. Yi Qinghan held Medusa tightly. Rank 9 flames surrounded his golden body, preventing the 7 demise snakes from attacking. The cloud beast was stunned for a moment. It looked at Medusa's aura and cried out a few times. It ran onto Medusa's shoulder and waved its small claws into the distance. Medusa had a target and quickly went deeper. The poisonous gas here was disgusting, but the colorful snake was getting more and more excited. It would attack a lone 7 demise snake and devour it directly. However, it did not dare to attack a group of 7 demise snake. Once it fell into the group, it would definitely die. After devouring more than 10 7 demise snakes, the colorful snake's body began to change color. Its skin also began to crack, dripping with blood. It looked extremely terrifying. "It's evolving," Medusa reminded in a low voice. The rainbow snake started to madly attack the 7 demise snakes, and it no longer cared about the other snake. It dove into the group of 7 demise snakes and opened its mouths, biting and tearing at each other. The battle between the snake kings was incredibly brutal. The brightly colored snake grew larger and larger, spitting out bones continuously. A pair of tender horns actually grew on its head, showing signs of evolving into a dragon. Its divine might grew denser and denser, and the divine spark Yi Qinghan had bestowed upon it before was rolling about in its stomach. It was constantly being refined, and its compatibility with it was increasing. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists tightly. He watched nervously as the rainbow snake fought against the thousands of 7 demise snakes. It was not at a disadvantage, and it was becoming more and more ferocious. The divinity soared to the sky, and the 7 demise snakes were forced to flee. Blood flowed all over the ground, interweaving with the withered leaves like a surging sea of blood. A pungent poisonous gas surged towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan felt a piercing pain all over his body, as though his skin was about to split open. The 5 elemental elements were unable to completely shield him from the poison. The poison slowly entered his body, and his divine body began to rot. Medusa frowned as she looked at Yi Qinghan. She whispered, "How is it? Can you withstand it?" Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and nodded. "It's fine for now. The poison here is not all 7 demise venom. There is also a poison barrier. I wonder if the 7 demise grass will be of any use?" Yi Qinghan's face turned pale at first, then it turned black. His glowing skin also dimmed. The cloud beast saw Yi Qinghan's expression change, and it immediately cried out. It pointed at a valley and signaled for Medusa to quickly enter it. The two temporarily stopped paying attention to the brightly colored snake's evolution and rushed directly into the valley. The valley was simply a snake nest. 7 demise snakes could be seen everywhere. Some of the 7 demise snakes were even more than 3 meters long, and they looked more like hybrid evil dragons. Those huge 7 demise snakes would actually devour their own kind. Their sharp cries could be heard everywhere, and anyone who was a little timid would be scared to death. Stalks of 7 demise grass were beautiful and grew halfway up the mountain. Those who did not understand its medicinal properties would be instantly killed by the poison. However, those who understood its medicinal properties could use the 7 demise grass to create a divine body that was impervious to poison. As Yi Qinghan and Medusa approached the valley, they instantly attracted the angry gazes of countless 7 demise snakes. Especially those huge 7 demise snakes. They were almost on the verge of condensing a divine spark. Once they condensed a divine spark, they could grow to grade 11, which was comparable to an ordinary dragon hybrid. They could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. If a god was bitten, without the 7 demise grasses treatment, it would be hard to live another day. Even if an extreme Tao Almighty suppressed the poison, they could only last for 3 months at most. Medusa's divine might was not of much use. A large group of 7 demise snakes began to force their way out of the valley. They opened their mouths, and a vicious smell filled the air, causing people to feel dizzy. Yi Qinghan staggered and almost fell. He stabbed his mantis pincers into a rock to maintain his balance. Meow! The cloud beast roared. The sound was ear-piercing, and a large group of 7 demise snakes revealed looks of fear. Even the 3-meter-long 7 demise snakes stopped squirming and wanted to retreat. Roar! A muffled roar was ear-splitting. It caused countless 7 demise snakes to curl up, not daring to move. In the depths of the valley, a huge 4-legged snake appeared. It was about 20 meters long and was a giant version of the 7 demise snake. It was not much different from a dragon. Its divine might was dense, and its huge eyes emitted a cold light. The cloud beast roared as if communicating with it. However, the huge 7 demise snake had no intention of retreating. Instead, it pressed on. This is a grade 11 7 demise snake. It already has a divine spark. Its poison can kill a god in an instant, Medusa said in a low voice. They were both god worshippers, but the cloud beast and the 7 demise snake could definitely kill a human of the same rank. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and looked at the grade 11 7 demise snake. He discovered that it was about to evolve into a dragon. Once it became a grade 12 divine beast, it could definitely sweep through the divine Mu estate. The cloud beasts seemed to know this 7 demise serpent. They roared at each other, unwilling to retreat. The 7 demise serpent roared, and countless 7 demise serpents began to move, rushing towards Yi Qinghan and Medusa from all directions. Meow! Before Medusa and Yi Qinghan could move, the cloud beast suddenly became enraged. Its figure flashed, and its sharp claws viciously tore at the 7 demise snake's head. The 7 demise snake only had time to close its eyes. The cloud beast swept past its head, and its sharp claws left a bloody wound on its head. Roar! The 7 demise snake roared, and swung its huge tail, smashing it viciously at the cloud beast. Unfortunately, the cloud beast was too fast. By the time it attacked, the cloud beast had already returned to Medusa's shoulder. Meow! The cloud beast roared provocatively. It bared its fangs and glared at the 7 demise snake. The 7 demise snake's eyes were filled with shock. It wriggled its body unwillingly, and with a low roar, it ordered the other 7 demise snakes to retreat. The cloud beast looked cute, but it was always cruel when it came to solving problems. If it couldn't win, it would fight. After the 7 demise snake retreated, Yi Qinghan let out a breath of turbid air. His complexion finally looked better. This kind of snake nest was indeed not suitable for humans. If it were anyone else, their legs would have already turned to jelly, let alone standing. Meow meow meow, the cloud beast cried out happily, as if it was trying to get on Yi Qinghan's good side. Yi Qinghan hurriedly threw out 2 godhoods. He had to treat this kind of ancestor well in this mountain range. If he wasn't careful, it would claw at him. With his defense and speed, he definitely wouldn't be able to dodge the cloud beast's attack. The cloud beast was even happier after obtaining the godhoods. It ran into the valley, pointed at the 7 demise grass, and raised its 5 little claws. It seemed to be reminding Yi Qinghan that he could take 5 stalks of 7 demise grass. Yi Qinghan grinned and rushed into the valley without hesitation. He saw that there were at least several thousand stalks of 7 demise grass halfway up the mountain. Each stalk was at least 1,000 years old. He casually picked 5 stalks of 7 demise grass that were growing the best. After obtaining them, he didn't know how to use them. The poison in his body almost attacked his godhood. He couldn't help but look at Medusa. Chapter 527. After Yi Qinghan plucked the 5 stalks of 7 extinction grass, the cloud beast immediately urged him to leave the valley. From time to time, it would look deeper into the valley as if it was afraid of the existence there. Meow meow meow. The cloud beast opened its mouth and bit Yi Qinghan's clothes, wanting to drag Yi Qinghan away. At this moment, Medusa suddenly shouted, "Come out!" Roar. Before Yi Qinghan could react, the roar caused the sky to crumble and the earth to crack. The entire valley almost flipped over, and a radius of dozens of miles was filled with poisonous gas. The 5 elements were unable to defend against it and fell to the ground. Even the godhood was invaded by the poisonous gas. Yi Qinghan might have lost control of his physical body, but his soul was still conscious. Being invaded by the terrifying poisonous gas, that tearing pain made him want to die immediately. He had lost contact with his godhood, his physical body, and his soul was completely isolated. The colorful poisonous gas flooded the valley, and the cloud beast's young body erupted with terrifying strength. It directly dragged Yi Qinghan out of the valley. Medusa broke through the 5 elements' shackles, and her eyes glowed with a dark brown light. Her aura surged into the 9 heavens and suppressed the depths of the valley. In the depths, a 1,000-meter-long 7 extinction snake flew over like a true heavenly dragon. Its huge dragon claws tore apart a mountain and smashed towards Medusa and Yi Qinghan. The outside of the valley was instantly plunged into darkness. Medusa reached out and grabbed an ancient tree, which transformed into a 10,000-foot-long divine weapon. She viciously smashed it into the sky and crashed into the mountain. A deafening sound shook the heavens, and the mountain collapsed. It was shattered into pieces by the divine weapon. A 12th grade 7 extinction snake. That 11th grade 7 extinction snake was injured by the cloud beast and actually went back to look for its parents. Medusa? Why are you with a human? A 12th grade 7 extinction snake could speak the human language, but it couldn't transform. At least, it couldn't transform before reaching the 12th grade. The 7 extinction snake's huge dragon eyes looked down with a valiant aura that caused the cloud beast to tremble. Medusa frowned and squinted her eyes, trying her best to control herself. She did not want to offend the 7 demise snake in front of her. This 7 demise snake was the real 7 demise. As long as it wanted, everything in front of it would disappear. He's my friend. We're just here to get some 7 extinction grass. We don't mean any harm. Why do you have to be so aggressive? Medusa asked in a deep voice. Since when did Medusa choose to be friends with humans? The 7 demise serpent snorted in disdain. As long as you are sincere, you can do it too. Didn't cloud beasts help him all the same? Medusa asked. Cloud beast, get over here. For a few godheads you actually helped a human and injured your childhood friend. Is this your style? The 7 demise snake descended and scolded in a thunderous voice. The cloud beast trembled and hid behind Yi Qinghan's head, feeling wronged. It was very young, even younger than the 11th rank 7 demise serpent. The 7 demise serpent and the cloud beast had always had a good relationship. They relied on each other and lived together in the 7 demise ground. Its father was very familiar with the 12th rank 7 demise serpent, and they were of the same generation. When it stood in front of the 7 demise serpent, it was obviously a generation younger. Meow meow meow. The cloud beast cried out in grievance and looked at the giant in front of it pitifully. Although it was strong, it was not strong enough to deal with the 12th grade 7 demise snake. You're feeling wronged? When your father was roaming the world, he specifically told me to take good care of you. He also told you to get along well with little 7 Absolute. You sold your friend out for a few divine sparks. The grade 12 7 Absolutes serpent scolded coldly. Roar. The 11th grade baby 7 demise snake roared, as if it was mocking the cloud beast. It was like a child shouting and provoking. Meow meow meow. The cloud beast ignored the little seven demise snake's provocation and looked at the giant seven demise snake with pleading eyes. Impossible! I will not let him go. If you kill him, I will forgive your ignorance today. The seven demise snake rejected the cloud beast's pleading and asked it to kill Yi Qinghan instead. Medusa frowned. She did not expect the seven demise snake to ignore her and not give her any face. The cloud beast shook its little head, unwilling to kill Yi Qinghan. The more the cloud beast refused, the angrier the seven demise snake became. It closed in on Medusa and stared at her, ready to use its strongest killing move at any time. Yi Qinghan's soul was surrounded by a huge amount of poisonous gas. His soul was on the verge of death and his vision was dark. No! Yi Qinghan roared in his heart. He desperately mobilized the 5 elements to move his golden body. The origin of fire turned into little sparks and burned from the inside, trying to burn the poison into nothingness. The origin of metal and origin of wood defended his golden body and replenished his vitality. At this moment, he was fighting against the Grim Reaper. If he could not suppress the poison, even his soul would not be able to escape. Even if the 9 Serenity's master came personally, he would not be able to save Yi Qinghan's soul. I cannot die. It was not easy to reach this stage. If I die this time, my soul will not be able to escape. There will not be a second chance. Yi Qinghan's physical body began to burn. The surrounding temperature reached its peak. Even his physical body could not withstand such flames. However, the speed at which the poison was dissipating was also very impressive. However, the poison near his soul was becoming more rampant. Fire! Yi Qinghan risked his life and directly ignited his soul. The feeling of his lungs being torn apart made him roar ferociously. His face was distorted like a demon's. His handsome face no longer had any color. Yi Qinghan's soul finally managed to forcibly take control of his physical body before he died. He curled up on the ground and roared angrily. Blood shot out from his eyes. Black blood. Even stone was corroded by the blood. It was clear how terrifying the poison gas was. Medusa was extremely anxious. At this moment, she could not divert her attention to help Yi Qinghan. He could only rely on himself. Yi Qinghan felt like he was being subjected to the cruelest torture in the depths of the 18 layers of hell. He was being burned by fire and his soul was being burned by the 9th grade flame. The pain caused him to gradually lose consciousness and lose control. The 9th grade flame gradually returned to the depths of his physical body. The poison in his soul became active again. Woo woo woo. Meow meow meow, the cloud beast growled. It could feel the aura of death on Yi Qinghan's body becoming denser. It could not help but feel sad. It looked pleadingly at the 7 demise serpent, hoping that it would change its mind. The 7 demise serpent sneered disdainfully. Anyone who was attacked by the poison gas would definitely not live for more than 5 minutes. Furthermore, most of the poison in Yi Qinghan's body came from the 7 demise serpent. Even a mid-level god could not live for more than 5 minutes. Yi Qinghan was still struggling. His desire to live was abnormally strong. His 5 fingers dug into the ground. The blood in his body had completely turned black. His physical body had also lost its luster. Roar! Yi Qinghan let out a hoarse growl. It was as if he was not human. His eyes were glowing red and black. He looked extremely terrifying. The cloud beast was frightened. Seeing Yi Qinghan's terrifying appearance, it could not help but retreat. If I don't want to die, no one can kill me. Yi Qinghan raised his head and roared. His eyes glared at the 7 demise serpent. He stood up in a panic and clenched his fists. He growled, 5 elements combine. Wind, fire, thunder, lightning, purify all filth. Chapter 528. The flames burned the sky and the poisonous gas burned. The unpleasant smell was nauseating. Yi Qinghan's body turned scarlet red, and his divine body cracked. The blood flowing out of his body was black. Poisonous gas surrounded his body, and the grade 9 flames burned even more fiercely. The color of the flames turned from red to pure white. It was almost evolving into a grade 10 flame source. Medusa and the 7 demise snakes' expressions changed. This kind of pain was not something a human could endure. An incense stick's worth of time had passed, and Yi Qinghan was still struggling. Medusa clenched her fists and looked angrily at the 7 demise snake. As long as the 7 demise snake was staring at her, she could not help Yi Qinghan. The cloud beast did not know how to help Yi Qinghan reduce his pain. It was too young, about the same as a human teenager. There was no hope for it to do anything. Yi Qinghan's essence was almost burned into nothingness. As the grade of the flames increased, Yi Qinghan was in more pain. However, his soul was clearer, and he actively added divine power to help the flames grow. The flames turned from pure white to transparent, and even his bones were melting. The metal source quickly condensed again, and the wood source filled his body. If not for the wood source, his vitality would have been exhausted long ago. The water source attached itself to his body, protecting every inch of his body as it fought with the flames for vitality. Boom! Yi Qinghan crushed a godhead and crazily absorbed divine power to replenish his strength. Hua! The flames became a grade 10 flame. The cloud beast and Medusa began to retreat, not daring to get close. The flames at this moment were enough to burn a god to death. The second godhead was swallowed, and it quickly broke apart, becoming Yi Qinghan's tonic. Yi Qinghan's eyes were malevolent. The essence of the flames evolved in his sea of consciousness. He formed a seal with both hands and sat cross-legged on the ground. He began to condense the third godhead, the fire godhead. His body already had the metal and water godhead. The metal and water godheads only defended and did not attack the fire source, allowing it to wreak havoc. His physical body continued to disintegrate and reform. Not only did it consume his strength, but it also consumed his will. It was simply too painful to have a living will. There was no one in the world who could endure such pain. The 7 demise serpent's eyes widened, and its killing intent intensified. The stronger Yi Qinghan was, the more it wanted to kill him. However, it could see that Yi Qinghan was condensing a godhead, so it wasn't in a hurry to kill him. Instead, it waited patiently. Pure godheads were rare, and they were condensed from Yi Qinghan's own power of faith. They weren't stolen from someone else. The power of faith continuously poured in from the endless plains. Yi Qinghan bathed in the golden river. The golden luster filled every inch of his skin and bones. The power of faith gathered at the top of the sea of bitterness. The third divine spark was quickly forming, filled with the profound mysteries of the origin of fire. The toxins in his body completely disappeared under the burning of the 10th grade flames. His black blood was burned dry, and his blood cells were operating at their limit. True God's blood flowed rapidly, roaring. It flowed faster and faster. His entire body was like a divine stone. Condensing a godhead required a large amount of god power. Yi Qinghan's speed of absorbing the top-grade spirit crystals was extremely fast. The top-grade spirit crystals couldn't support the condensing of the godhead, so he began to use large amounts of god crystals. The god crystals contained a terrifying amount of god power. The moment it entered his body, the metal and water godheads condensed it into god power and sent it into the fire godhead. Boom, boom, boom. The god blood roared like a galloping horse. The dragon blood genes were stimulated again, emitting a terrifying dragon's might. The 7 demise vipers were shocked. The ranking of snakes wasn't very strict, but dragons were different. Snakes were naturally subservient to the dragon race. Creatures with dragon's might, no matter how weak they were, could intimidate other creatures, let alone snakes. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and circulated his god power to the limit. The three divine sparks suppressed each other and intertwined as they hung above the sea of bitterness. All the filth in the sea of bitterness was burned away. Yi Qinghan's soul was purified. It was almost on par with Emperor Ye's oneness of heaven and man. The dragon's might grew stronger and stronger. The surrounding 7 demise vipers began to flee, not daring to show the slightest disrespect. The 12th grade 7 demise vipers faced Yi Qinghan, but they couldn't muster up any momentum to attack. The dragon's might had taken effect. Medusa's eyes were filled with reverence as she looked at Yi Qinghan. Her heart was filled with worship and love. Now there was an additional respect. Her complicated feelings made her feel conflicted. She didn't know how to face Yi Qinghan. Boom! The multicolored snake attacked from behind. It was more than 10 meters long and had sharp fangs and claws. It possessed dragon's might as if it was a real divine dragon. It shocked the 7 demise vipers. What kind of snake is this? The 7 demise vipers were shocked. They could clearly feel that the multicolored snake was a snake, but looking at it felt like looking at a dragon. The sense of danger was indescribable. The multicolored snake glared at the 7 demise vipers and bared its fangs. Its body twisted and became larger. It was hundreds of meters long and its claws could split mountains. It blocked the entrance and intimidated the 7 demise vipers. Yi Qinghan felt the appearance of the multicolored snake and couldn't help but feel relieved. The multicolored snake was extremely fast and its attacks were even stronger. When it was still a 7th grade snake, it could fight its natural enemy, the 8th grade god-slaying eagle, to a standstill. It could even suppress the god-slaying eagle. Now that it had advanced to the 11th grade and became a divine snake, it would have no problem dealing with the 7 demise vipers. The 7 demise vipers' poison gas couldn't hurt it. The 7 demise vipers would only be suppressed. Yi Qinghan calmly condensed his divine spark. The divine spark of fire was quickly formed and the mystery of fire was fully revealed. In an instant, he comprehended the origin of fire to the limit of the great perfection realm. With a wave of his hand, the top 10th grade flame could evolve to the 11th grade at any time. It was slightly stronger than the little golden crow's flame. Hua! Yi Qinghan unconsciously flicked out a drop of flame. It pierced through the void and attacked the 12th grade 7 demise vipers. Wherever the fire passed, the sky was burned into a black hole, swallowing all living things. Roar! The 7 demise vipers spat out a sea of poisonous gas, which collided with the top 10th grade flame. When the two collided, neither side could do anything to the other. The 7 demise vipers was incomparably furious. It did not expect that Yi Qinghan, who had just condensed the divine spark of fire, could be mentioned in the same breath as the top experts of the lesser god shrine. Now, with the multicolored snake and Medusa's protection, there was absolutely no chance for it to kill anyone. Xiao! Xiao! The divine spark of metal, the divine spark of water, and the divine spark of fire revolved at the same time, erupting with a terrifying divine power. At the same time, they reinforced the flames, forming 2 sharp swords of yin and yang, which rushed towards the 7 demise vipers. Hua! Outside the valley, the heavens and the earth cracked. The multicolored snake retreated to the side, allowing Yi Qinghan to comprehend his own mysteries. The 7 demise vipers swung its tail at the yin and yang swords. The powerful divine sword could not tear through the 7 demise vipers' defense. The yin and yang swords exploded in the air, soaring into the galaxy. The 7 demise vipers had the upper hand, but at this moment, it did not dare to take the opportunity to attack Yi Qinghan. Perhaps it was because of the dragon's might, or perhaps it was because it was facing the joint attack of Medusa and the multicolored snake, but it chose to step back and slowly retreated. Humans! Quickly leave the 7 demise grounds. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for using all his trump cards to kill all of you. The 7 demise vipers coldly said. Although it did not want to fight, If Yi Qinghan and Medusa continued to push it too far, it would definitely provoke its ferocious nature. However, Yi Qinghan sneered and stepped into the valley. He reached out his hand to grab the 7 demise grass halfway up the mountain. Chapter 529. Yi Qinghan was extremely powerful. The 5 stalks of 7 despair grass were not enough. Since they were here, they could not waste this opportunity. There were at least 1,000 stalks of 7 despair grass halfway up the mountain. They were priceless and could not be found outside. Yi Qinghan continuously plucked more than 100 stalks. The 7 despair snake was enraged. It rolled its thick body and opened its mouth, spitting out a terrifying poisonous gas. It looked like it could not suppress it any longer. Roar! The little 7 despair snake bared its fangs and glared at Yi Qinghan. It wanted to bite him to pieces. Yi Qinghan did not go overboard. He took more than 120 stalks of 7 despair grass, stared at the 7 despair snake, and retreated. When the 7 despair snake saw Yi Qinghan retreating, it suppressed its anger and stared coldly at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's divine power was abundant. If it weren't for the fact that the poisonous gas here was too dense, he really wanted to fight the 7 demise serpent and use it as a stepping stone to stabilize his strength. However, in the end, he couldn't hold back his impatience and began to retreat with Medusa. The multicolored snake withdrew into its body and the cloud beast followed. It did not dare to stay in the 7 despair grounds. They retreated to the periphery of the cloud beast's territory, but the cloud beast did not choose to leave. Kept meowing, and in the end, the divine bird came out to translate. Yi Qinghan understood that this little fellow was afraid of the 7 despair snake's revenge and did not dare to stay here. The cloud beast was a one-child family. Its entire family consisted of it, its father, and its mother. Its parents were also rank 12 divine beasts. They had left their territory long ago to travel the world in search of opportunities to break through to rank 13. It was normal for the little cloud beast to be afraid of the 7 despair snake's revenge. Yi Qinghan smiled. He was worried about how to tame this divine beast. He did not expect it to be so playful and want to follow him out of the cloud beast's territory. Let's go together. Yi Qinghan led the cloud beast and pulled Medusa out of the cloud beast's territory. Outside the cloud beast's territory, it was a mess. It was as if a terrifying battle had happened. There were bloodstains and a bunch of white fur that was very conspicuous. It was obviously the fur from the celestial Qilin's wings. A mountain was reduced to dust by countless sword scars, and it was filled with a mysterious aura. There were also some terrifying auras whose origins were unknown, but their divine qi was pure. The divine arts they used were definitely ranked in the top 300. Yi Qinghan and Medusa knew something was wrong the moment they got close to the edge of the battlefield. The heavenly Qilin mythical beast had been captured, and divine master mystic was most likely dead. Profound divine sovereign is not dead. He should have escaped. Once we find him, we will know who kidnapped the heavenly Qilin. Yi Qinghan felt that although the profound divine sovereign's aura was scattered, his aura was not filled with the aura of death. After searching for a long time, he finally found a mark. It was an arrowhead, very messy. It should have been left behind by the profound divine sovereign when he fled. It's in the east. Yi Qinghan and Medusa immediately rushed towards the east at an extremely fast speed. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The two of them were as fast as lightning. They passed through several mountains and discovered Divine Master Xian's aura. Divine Master Xian, I am Yi Qinghan. Come out. Yi Qinghan scanned the surroundings and did not find Divine Master Xian's hiding place. Divine Master Xian was definitely a high-level existence among the lower gods. If he wanted to hide, ordinary people would not be able to find him. Cough, cough. Divine Master Xian walked out of a cave in a valley in a sorry state. His body was covered in wounds and dripping with blood. His divinity was almost shattered, and his hair was disheveled. It seemed like he had encountered a tough battle. Taoist Yi. The opponent is the Hao-Yu sect, ranked 9th under the Mu Xin government. Their third-generation disciple, Sun Haoran, and a few other disciples of aristocratic families worked together to capture the heavenly Qilin. When I tried to stop them, they also injured me. I really could not do anything. Divine Master Xian was vexed. Although he was a county god, compared to the top 10 sects under the Mu Xin government, he did not only lack a foundation, but also divine art. The 3 divine arts used by the Hao-Yu sect were all ranked in the top 300. Among them, the Hao-Yu Lotus divine art was ranked in the top 100. Within the same realm, there were few opponents. Hao-Yu sect. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. His aura turned cold as he said coldly, "Bring us there. I want to see how strong the Hao-Yu sect is." It did not matter if he did not have divine art. Yi Qinghan did not need to rely on powerful divine arts to defeat his enemies. Just by relying on his majestic divine energy, powerful physical body, and 3 divinity, he could still kill a lesser god priest in an instant. Divine Master Xian swallowed a divine pill, and his face became a bit rosy. After recuperating for half an hour, his complexion looked a bit better. He said excitedly, "Taoist Yi, I will bring you to their camp. They have set up camp in the Xianwei mountain range." Divine Master Xian suffered a blow and obviously wanted to take revenge. He did not have the ability, but now that he had Yi Qinghan's support, he was not afraid of the Hao-Yu sect at all. Swish! Yi Qinghan picked up Divine Master Xian and flew into the sky with Medusa. They chased after the stars and the moon as they swept over the trees. Flying beasts were killed immediately by the cloud beast. If it was a god priest, the cloud beasts could actually pierce through the flying beasts' bodies and snatch away their divinity. The foodie was naturally proficient in dissection. It could even sense where the opponent's divinity was hidden. Its target was very accurate. Yi Qinghan did not need to defend at all. The cloud beasts on his shoulders were enough. In less than an hour, a huge valley appeared in Yi Qinghan and Medusa's vision. Smoke rose in spirals as a group of people sang and danced. They knew how to enjoy themselves. A few young experts were god priests. Even when they came to a dangerous place like the Xianwei mountain range, they still brought along their maids and singers. Now that they had caught a precious mount like the celestial Qilin, they were so happy that they could not tell north from south. They directly returned to the valley to have fun. Ha ha ha, this celestial Qilin can at least be exchanged for a lesser god's divinity. If we can find the 7 extremes grass, this young master will be able to marry the 7th princess soon. Sun Haoran of the Bright Moon sect could be considered as a handsome young man. There was a sharp glint in the corner of his eyes. He could definitely be considered an elite of the younger generation. Haha, big brother Sun, if you marry the 7th princess, don't forget about us brothers. A group of young masters said flatteringly. Of course, we are all brothers. When I marry the 7th princess, I will definitely help you settle your hearts. Sun Haoran said proudly with a smile. Of course, when big brother marries the 7th princess, you will have the support of the manor head. Even if you meet the sect masters or family heads of the top 10 clans, they will still have to give you some face. The group of people did their best to flatter Sun Haoran. They could not wait to praise Sun Haoran to the heavens. Sun Haoran was flattered. He looked at the celestial Qilin that was bound by the god-binding chains and ruthlessly lashed out with his whip. He coldly said, "If you are sensible and submit to this young master, I will definitely treat you well in the future. I will definitely have a lot of face if I ride you to marry the 7th princess. If you are not sensible, I will beat you until you are." Hiss hiss hiss. Ouch ouch ouch. The celestial Qilin's body was covered with wounds and it was howling in pain. However, it was bound by the god-binding chains and could not escape. Now, it could only pray that Yi Qinghan would hurry back. At this moment, Yi Qinghan appeared in the valley with Medusa and Supreme God Xian. A pair of terrifying eyes stared at Sun Haoran and the rest. Chapter 530. Inside the valley, the cold aura mixed with the scorching heat made the hundreds of people inside feel like they were in a world of ice and fire. Sun Haoran and the others were shocked as they looked at Yi Qinghan and Medusa. They were unfamiliar with them, but Divine Sovereign Mystic could recognize them. Sun Haoran immediately stood up and said coldly, "Divine Sovereign Mystic, don't think that I don't dare to kill you. It's just a small city. If I kill you, the prefecture lord won't say anything." "That's right. Big Brother only spared your life because he pitied you. Now you actually dare to bring people to cause trouble. Do you think you can do anything to us with just the two of you?" A young master from an aristocratic family ridiculed with disdain. A wretched young man stared at Medusa and said to Sun Haoran in a flattering manner, "Big Brother, this chick is not bad. Before winning the 7th princess, you can enjoy her first, PSSH. Before Medusa could make a move, the cloud beast went back and forth, slicing through the youth's throat. Its sharp claws pierced through his head and pulled out the quintessence. By the time blood spurted out, the cloud beast was already holding onto the quintessence. After swallowing it, it ran to Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Boom! The young man collapsed to the ground, his eyes wide with disbelief. He had lost his godhood, and his throat had been slit. Even in death, he didn't understand how he had lost his godhood. The pupils of Sun Haoran and the others shrank, and they immediately took a few steps back. The guards around them surrounded them and looked warily at the cloud beast on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. Meow. The cloud beast grinned mockingly, giving everyone goosebumps. "It's a cloud beast," someone cried out in fear and hurriedly looked at Sun Haoran, hoping that he would take out a mid-level divine artifact to suppress the cloud beast. After all, the heavenly Qilin divine beast was suppressed by a mid-level divine artifact. Sun Haoran frowned as he looked at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "I am Sun Haoran, ranked 8th among the Haoyue sect's 3rd generation's top 10 elites. May I know who you are? Why did he kill when he attacked? Aren't you looking down on my Bright Moon sect too much?" Crack! Yi Qinghan looked at the pitiful celestial Qilin curled up at Sun Haoran's feet. He clenched his fists and his eyes were filled with killing intent. "Bright Moon sect. I come from a remote place and have never heard of this name. But if you dare to hurt my spiritual pet, I will let you know how the word death is really written." Boom! Yi Qinghan suddenly exploded. His fist smashed towards Sun Haoran with great calamity. Top-tier 10th rank flames would definitely ignite upon contact. The entire valley was set ablaze. Sun Haoran was greatly shocked and hurriedly dodged backwards, and he no longer cared about the divine beast celestial Qilin beneath his feet. Yi Qinghan used the wind mark secret technique and moved as fast as lightning. He directly charged in front of Sun Haoran. His ruthless aura almost penetrated Sun Haoran's defenses, causing him to be extremely frightened. He immediately took out his mid-tier divine artifact, the Bright Moon Divine Lotus. This was an authentic Tier 12 divine artifact that surpassed the Tier 11 divine artifact. Its might shook the heavens, and everything within 1,000 miles submitted to it. The divine lotus transformed into a sharp sword that tore through the silent space and attacked Yi Qinghan. "You are courting death." Sun Haoran was furious. Although his cultivation was not the strongest among the younger generation in the Bright Moon sect, his status was high, second only to Almighty Su, who was ranked first. Because he was the grandson of the Bright Moon sect's great elder, he had a mid-tier divine artifact to protect him. With the mid-tier divine artifact, Sun Haoran could run amok under the mid-tier gods. He did not put Yi Qinghan in his eyes at all. At this moment, The only thing he was afraid of was Yi Qinghan's background. Once he found out that Yi Qinghan had no background, he would not hesitate to kill him. The mid-tier divine artifact was indeed powerful. Just its aura alone was enough to suppress the cloud beast. It was so frightened that it hurriedly retreated to the back. A divine lotus that was suffused with divine light descended from the sky. There were sharp swords in all directions, imprisoning the space around Yi Qinghan. He wanted to use the divine lotus to suppress Yi Qinghan on the spot. Yi Qinghan activated the reincarnation mirror, and his 3 godhoods erupted at the same time. His divine power penetrated the reincarnation mirror and activated this chaotic divine artifact. A terrifying destructive light rushed out, destroying everything and taking away all living things. Boom! The destructive light collided with the divine lotus, and the divine lotus exploded with powerful divine power. The destructive light and the divine power barrier collided, and the collision caused the valley to crumble. Some guards were directly shaken to death. Even the guards at the shrine were bleeding from their 7 orifices. They were crushed by the powerful pressure and collapsed to the ground. PFFF. More than 100 guards, at least half of the experts, were scared to death. The remaining half of the shrine guards were sent flying while coughing up blood. Their eyes were filled with despair and fear. What is this? Sun Haoran was terrified. He realized that his soul that controlled the mid-tier divine artifact had almost been destroyed. Yi Qinghan's dark mirror could actually destroy the bright moon divine lotus. This is the divine artifact that will send you to the afterlife. Yi Qinghan controlled the reincarnation mirror to resist the divine lotus while he took out the mantis pincers and attacked Sun Haoran's body. With his boundless divine power, he did not have to worry about not having enough divine power. Boom! 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 The mantis pincers were unstoppable. They turned into sharp blades and slashed at Sun Haoran. Sun Haoran was fully focused on controlling the mid-tier divine artifact, so he was powerless to begin with. He wasn't Yi Qinghan, who possessed 3 godhoods at the same time and could use his divine energy as if it was free. He could only watch helplessly as the giant blades slashed towards him. He hurriedly fled with the bright moon divine lotus, even abandoning his guards and friends. Humph! Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. He stomped on the ground and moved as fast as lightning. He swept across the void and stopped Sun Haoran. You want to leave? It's too late, Yi Qinghan said in a muffled voice. Fellow Taoist, don't go too far. My bright moon sect is not to be trifled with. Sun Haoran knew that he was not a match for Yi Qinghan. He hurriedly brought out his identity, wanting to intimidate Yi Qinghan. Your identity does not scare me. Die. Yi Qinghan said coldly. What? The reincarnation mirror exploded again. The light of destruction pierced through the void. Sun Haoran did not dare to attack again. He could only protect the bright moon divine lotus in front of him and fight for a chance to survive. Thud! Thud! Yi Qinghan pressed on. His divine power poured out. The reincarnation mirror became stronger and stronger, and the seal became weaker and weaker. It had the might of a true chaotic divine artifact. The speed at which it consumed divine power was extremely fast. Ordinary people would not be able to support such a divine artifact. Fellow Taoist, my grandfather is heavenly true God. You better think carefully before you do anything. If you kill me, my grandfather will definitely chase you to the ends of the earth. Sun Haoran threatened. As long as it's not a top-tier divine artifact, I don't care. Die. Yi Qinghan exploded again, sending Sun Haoran flying. The bright moon divine lotus almost broke. Its divinity was getting weaker and weaker. Its divine light dimmed. It was about to be destroyed by the reincarnation mirror. Sun Haoran was in despair. He gritted his teeth and roared, You want to kill me? You're still lacking. What? The bright moon divine lotus suddenly exploded with 10 times its original power. This was some life-saving divine power that heavenly true God had bestowed upon him. It could only be used once. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. He pressed his feet against a mountain and leaned forward. He blocked the divine light that was rushing at him. The light of reincarnation shot out by the reincarnation mirror was suppressed. Chapter 531. Divine light and destructive light collided, covering 100 miles. The crazy killing intent shook the dozens of priests in the valley, causing them to turn pale. Their legs trembled and they didn't dare to move. Medusa emitted a powerful aura, intimidating these priests. The divine bird hurriedly led the cloud beast to release the divine chains on the celestial Qilin. The celestial Qilin roared and rushed toward the valley at extreme speed after breaking free. Boom! Its hoof crushed an expert's body. The godhead flew out, but it was kicked away by its hoof. The godhead was brought to Medusa. Medusa suppressed the soul without hesitation and put away the godhead. Whoosh! The cloud beast turned into a bolt of lightning and tore apart a priest's defense. It directly pulled out the godhead and threw it to Medusa. It could only eat one godhead a day. If it ate too much, it wouldn't be able to digest it. Meow. Meow. The cloud beast went berserk. It only took the godhead and didn't even kill the divine body. Bloody mist sprayed everywhere. The priests screamed and wailed. They wanted to escape, but Medusa directly imprisoned the valley and turned it into a slaughterhouse. You demon! You will die a horrible death. The Bright Moon sect won't let you go. My Yang family will avenge me. My Yu family, Pucci. In a short moment, at least a dozen priests had fallen. The celestial Qilin went crazy. It vented all the humiliation it had suffered in the past 2 days. It was completely torturing this group of people. When the star-twining vine saw so many divine bodies and godheads in the valley, it immediately abandoned Yi Qinghan and rushed toward the valley. Hundreds of thousands of vines danced at the same time, shaking people's hearts. The remaining 20 or so low-level priests were all wrapped up. Several thousand vines wrapped around a priest. The vines were indestructible. They directly broke through the divine body and wrapped around the godhead. At the same time, they absorbed the energy in the divine body. The screams of dozens of priests were horrifying. The star-twining vine was almost at the level of an 11th-rank priest. Even if several thousand venerable sovereigns were to fight a low-level priest, they would still be in trouble, let alone a star-twining vine. Its vines were even harder to break than venerable sovereigns' weapons. The priests could do nothing about it. In the end, the star-twisting vine did not break through to the divine shrine realm. Many divine shrines were too powerful, and it could not kill them at all. It could only slowly absorb their divine power. However, the more it was like this, the more afraid they were. At this moment they wished they could just die instantly. Despair filled their hearts, tormenting them, making them almost go crazy. A large number of godhoods were thrown out, and the Medusas were flustered. After all, the souls within the godhoods could control them, and they all wanted to escape. Yi Qinghan and Sun Haoran were fighting with their lives on the line. Sun Haoran had used all his trump cards and even his life-saving trump card. Yi Qinghan could only resist the pure divine might that surged out of him. However, Yi Qinghan could still resist. In terms of endurance, Yi Qinghan was definitely the most terrifying. With 3 godhoods providing him with divine power, coupled with his unparalleled willpower, as long as he could not be killed instantly, he could definitely exhaust any expert of the same level to death. The more Sun Haoran fought, the more disappointed he became. Yi Qinghan could not be killed at all, and the Bright Moon Divine Lotus could not completely kill Yi Qinghan. Even if he used the heavenly god's stored divine power, he could only defeat Yi Qinghan, not kill him. Boom! Yi Qinghan was sent flying again. His body was badly mutilated, and his eyes revealed a terrifying light. He twisted his waist and crushed a mountain rock to stabilize himself. He looked coldly at Sun Hauran, and his strange smile made Sun Hauran panic. "You lunatic! Didn't I capture your spiritual pet? I didn't know it was yours. I'll return it to you and make it up to you. Don't bother me any more." Sun Hauran roared angrily. Yi Qinghan sneered and asked in disdain, "If I can't beat you and I said this, would you stop bothering me and spare my life?" Sun Hauran's breath stagnated. He was the kind of person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. As long as someone dared to offend him, he would only kill them, and would never cripple them. Those who could survive after offending him were definitely the strongest elites of the Mushin estate, or had a powerful background that far surpassed the Bright Moon sect. Sun Hauran's eyes carried a fierce gaze as he stared at Yi Qinghan. This was the first time in his life that he was so miserably suppressed by someone. He thought to himself, "As long as you let me leave, I'll definitely make you pay. Fellow Taoist, as long as you let me go, this young master will give you 10 lesser godhoods. How about it?" Sun Hauran asked in a deep voice. "No need. The godhoods of those people in the valley are enough for me." Yi Qinghan coldly refused. He swallowed a divine medicine and turned it into divine power that flowed through his limbs and bones. His divine power was immediately replenished, and he mobilized the reincarnation mirror to attack Sun Hauran again. Sun Hauran's anger reached the heavens, and the killing intent in his heart grew thicker and thicker. Boom! The light of destruction once again drowned Sun Hauran. If not for the protection of the Bright Moon Divine Lotus, he would have already been killed by Yi Qinghan. The mid-level divine artifact was too powerful, and Yi Qinghan couldn't use his physical body to attack. He could only use the reincarnation mirror to slowly exhaust Sun Hauran. Sun Hauran felt that he had no chance and decided to give up on the mid-level divine artifact. He directly threw the mid-level divine artifact at Yi Qinghan, and took the opportunity to flee into the distance. The Bright Moon Divine Lotus grew to 10,000 feet and descended from the sky, pressing down on Yi Qinghan with all its might. He had no time to chase after Sun Hauran, and Medusa was busy suppressing the soul in the godhood, so she couldn't chase after him. Sun Hauran took the opportunity to quickly disappear into the Dark Moon mountain range without a trace. Yi Qinghan groaned. He was just a piece of trash. Even if he escaped, it wouldn't matter. However, this mid-level divine artifact was priceless. It was much more valuable than Sun Hauran's life. The reincarnation mirror desperately consumed the divine power of the Bright Moon Divine Lotus. The Bright Moon Divine Lotus divinity became dimmer and dimmer, and in the blink of an eye, it returned to the size of a palm and fell into the valley. Yi Qinghan immediately put away the reincarnation mirror and descended from the sky, diving into the valley. He reached out and grabbed the Bright Moon Divine Lotus. Boundless divine power poured into the Divine Lotus, forcefully suppressing the artifact spirit. The artifact spirit frantically counterattacked, crashing into Yi Qinghan's soul and almost knocking him unconscious. Swish! Yi Qinghan's face was deathly pale. He grabbed the Divine Lotus and rushed towards Medusa, roaring, "Help me suppress this divine artifact." Medusa immediately gave up on suppressing the divine spark. She used brute force to crush the divine sparks. More than 10 divine sparks were wasted just like that. They were all thrown to the divine beasts, benefiting them. Medusa's jade-like hand grabbed the Bright Moon Divine Lotus, and a valiant mid-level divine power poured into the divine artifact. She joined forces with Yi Qinghan to suppress the artifact spirit. A wisp of the mid-level divine power on the artifact spirit's soul was instantly obliterated. Just as Yi Qinghan and Medusa suppressed the divine artifact, within the Bright Moon sect, a white-haired elder spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. "Bastard! You actually dare to steal my supreme treasure!" Boom! Waves of killing intent surged within the Bright Moon sect. Even the sect master of the Bright Moon sect was alarmed. "Marshal uncle, what's going on?" The sect master of the Bright Moon sect was a middle-aged man. He looked very vigorous and contained 100,000 years of foundation. He had cultivated to the extreme Tao Almighty Realm, and his cultivation was not inferior to this grand elder. The sect master of the Bright Moon sect was called Jiang Haochen, and the grand elder was called Sun Xian. They were both top-notch experts under the divine Mu estate. Sun Xian's face was somewhat pale. His body trembled slightly, and he roared hoarsely, "That child Howren might have met with misfortune. The life-saving divine artifact I gave him was stolen. My soul that was attached to the divine artifact was also obliterated. It has completely changed owners now." Chapter 532. Inside the valley, Yi Qinghan suppressed the Bright Moon Divine Lotus and studied it excitedly for a while. He subdued the artifact's spirit and refined it again before keeping it. Medusa suppressed 23 godheads while the rest were given to the star-twisting vine, cloud beast, god-slaying eagle, and multicolored snake. The divine bird also swallowed one. This could be considered a rather rich harvest. Yi Qinghan took the 23 godheads. In addition to the 1 mid-level godhead and 3 low-level godheads he had a total of 26 low-level godheads and 1 mid-level godhead. There were more than 100 stalks of 7-end grass. 2 or 3 stalks of 7-end grass could be exchanged for a mid-level godhead from the divine cleansing estate. Moreover, the grade would certainly be good. This trip to the mystic Moon Mountain Range was indeed a great harvest. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said seriously, "Let's go. The earlier we exchange for the godheads, the better. The godheads that the divine cleansing estate offered must be good. We can't let outsiders take advantage of us." Sovereign God Mystic was delighted, but there was also some panic in his eyes. Yi Qinghan had offended the Bright Moon sect this time. In the future, the Bright Moon sect would definitely look for Yi Qinghan to settle account. Yi Qinghan wasn't afraid, but Sovereign God Mystic was. If the Bright Moon sect used the higher-ups of the divine cleansing estate to crush him countless times. Yi Qinghan and Medusa rode on the heavenly Qilin and rushed to the periphery of the mystic Moon Mountain Range. Sovereign God Mystic was left far behind, but he didn't dare to fall too far behind. He clenched his teeth and rushed to the periphery. He completely gave up on preserving his strength and used the subversive state. The heavenly Qilin had been suppressing its anger for the past few days, and now it was pouring out in torrents. It galloped happily towards the western gorge mountain. Wherever it passed, who dared to obstruct it? It would just kick them with its hoof. Even the mid-level Godhead priest was kicked until he didn't dare to do anything. After all, there was a mid-level Godhead priest and a young man with a terrifying aura sitting on its back. Yi Qinghan was too young, and his cultivation was too strong. Everyone mistakenly thought that he was a direct disciple of some mansion, and no one was willing to provoke him. Half a month later, the celestial Kylin brought Yi Qinghan and Medusa to the entrance of the western gorge mountain. There were still a large number of cultivators trying to force their way through. The wild sect did not stop them as long as they did not attack the wild sect. Most of them were extremely arrogant. They forcibly broke through the enchantment set up by the eccentric sect and even directly attacked the array formation of the eccentric sect. A few days ago, 4 young men joined forces and came to the western gorge mountain. They were very arrogant. They continuously attacked the sect-protecting formation of the Kuang sect and were chased by Emperor Yi for thousands of miles. Emperor Ye's combat power shocked everyone, and the news spread more and more. Now, those who were near the Kuang sect would obediently let him pass. Only a few people dared to attack the sect-protecting formation of the Kuang sect. In the end, they were all beaten up by Emperor Yi. The real middle-level gods did not bother to bully a small sect like the Wild Sect. They just passed by in a low-key manner. On this day, Yi Qinghan rode the celestial Kylin and appeared at the entrance of the Western Gorge Mountain. His powerful aura forced the cultivators in the entrance to retreat frantically until they left the Western Gorge Mountain. Yi Qinghan glanced at the thousands of adventurers outside and the young masters of aristocratic families who were constantly approaching. He moved his fingertips slightly and summoned Xian Nu in front of him. He said in a low voice, "Set up the checkpoint. Those who enter the Xianyu Mountain will have to pay 1,000 top-grade spiritual crystals. Those who leave will have to pay a piece of low-grade divine crystal." Xian Nu was horrified. There were so many gods in front of him. Thousands or even tens of thousands of people entered the Xianyu Mountain every day. If these people were angered, even the army of the Xianyu County would be sent to their deaths, let alone the Blood Moon Divine Guards. Whoosh! Divine Master Xian was so tired that he finally caught up with Yi Qinghan. He panted heavily and scolded Xian Nu angrily. "From now on, Brother Ye's words are my will. No one is allowed to refute him. Go and set up the checkpoint." Xian Nu immediately mobilized the army to seal the checkpoint. This was the only passage. Those who wanted to enter the Xianyu Mountain had to pay 1,000 top-grade spiritual crystals. Recently, the Wild Sect would definitely need a large number of top-grade spiritual crystals and divine crystals. For the sake of the Xuanzong, Yi Qinghan had no choice but to make things difficult for the common people. Moreover, it was only 1,000 spiritual crystals, which was nothing to these adventurers and young masters of aristocratic families. Those who were able to come out of the Xianyu Mountains must be of high cultivation. They would not care about the lower-grade divine crystals. Once the toll was paid, countless cultivators were enraged. They clamored to crush the Blood Moon Divine Guards and suppress the Wild Sect. The young masters of aristocratic families, especially, began to attack without hesitation. Boom! Yi Qinghan waved his sky-covering hand and slammed it out from within the sect. Boundless flames of the 10th grade descended from the sky, and the flaming hand ruthlessly smashed into a young man from a lesser god shrine. The young man's body was torn apart, and his divine blood was ignited by the flames. Ah! A shrill scream resounded through the sky, shocking everyone. Yi Qinghan was so powerful that he crushed the inferior god temple like a medium god temple. There is a medium god temple in the Wild Sect. He is even more powerful than Emperor Yi. Some of the cultivators looked around in horror. They looked at their companions and did not dare to be presumptuous. You can enter the Xianyu Mountain if you pay enough spiritual crystals. If you can't, get lost. If you dare to cause trouble outside the Wild Sect, don't blame me for being rude. Yi Qinghan's voice was so cold that it could freeze people's hearts. None of the cultivators dared to speak. At this moment, not to mention the adventurers, even Xian Nu was dumbfounded. How long had Yi Qinghan been in the mythical realm? When they first met, Yi Qinghan's combat power was about the same as his. But in just over a year, Yi Qinghan had surpassed him by leaps and bounds. The young masters of the aristocratic families no longer dared to attack the checkpoint. They all obediently paid 1,000 top-grade spiritual crystals. Even the inferior god temple was very obedient. They looked at the Wild Sect in the Western Gorge in awe. Yi Qinghan's attack just now had scared them out of their wits. As for the unlucky god temple, even his godhood was burned into nothingness. In the Wild Sect, Yi Qinghan took out a large number of godhoods. The first batch of godhoods was obviously going to be given to the people in the inner sect. He did not even need to pay any contribution points. Gu Qingyu, Sikong Qingjun, and the others all received godhoods. Most of them were compatible with their elemental attribute. Only Gu Qingyu's godhood was not compatible with his swordsmanship. He needed to condense his own godhood. After Yi Qinghan finished distributing everything, He called Supreme Divinity Mystic over and said in a deep voice, "Immediately inform the divine cleansing residents to come and get the 7 extinction grass and bring the Godhead over. If there is a sword Tao Godhead, I am willing to exchange 20 stalks of 7 extinction grass for it." Yi Qinghan was indeed very generous. In order to get a godhood that was compatible with Gu Qingyu, he had wasted a lot of godhoods. 20 high-grade godhoods could be exchanged for a medium godhood in the outside world. Moreover, the people of the divine cleansing residence were in urgent need of godhoods. Supreme God Mystic immediately returned to the residence. She used the communication talisman to have a meeting with the higher-ups of the divine cleansing residence. She told them about Yi Qinghan's request and soon received a reply. The divine cleansing residence agreed to exchange a medium swordsmanship godhood for 20 godhoods. In the divine cleansing residence, the chief butler was wearing a brocade bathrobe. He did not even put on his shoes. He ran wildly in the residence and rushed to the residence master's palace. He shouted, "My lord, good news! There is news of godhoods." The 7th princess was as precious as a pearl in the divine cleansing residence master's heart. Her life was naturally taken care of by the servants. How could they not be happy to get the godhoods? Chapter 533. Just when Divine Lord Mystic informed Mu Shenfu, the news of Yi Qinghan obtaining the 7 extremes grass spread like wildfire, but only among the direct descendants of Mu Shenfu. The direct descendants were also divided into direct descendants and some cousins, all of whom held high positions in Mu Shenfu. Mu Shenfu and Heavenly Sword Hall were the forces of Lu family, a branch of Mu family. Lu Zhantian was one of the top 10 young masters in Mu Shenfu. His mother was the sister of Mu Shenfu's chief, and he was the chief's nephew. He joined the army from a young age and fought his way up from an ordinary soldier to a vice-commander of Mu Shenfu. Under his command, there were 10 captains and nearly 100 mid-level priests. Every one of them was as strong as Divine Lord Mystic, and some were even stronger than her. Lu Zhantian was wearing military armor and holding a spear. His fingers were still bleeding, and it was obvious that he had just returned from the battlefield. The Mushan Prefecture was a large prefecture at the border under the Sanqing Divine Kingdom. It was located at the intersection of the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom and the Martial Destruction Divine Kingdom. The forces were intertwined and there were many bandit armies. Not only did the Mushan Prefecture have to guard against attacks from the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom and the Martial Destruction Divine Kingdom's Martial Destruction Divine Kingdom, they also had to guard against the various bandit armies. Don't underestimate any bandit army. Every powerful bandit army had tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people, countless priests. In order to suppress the bandits, Mu Shenfu lost tens of thousands of soldiers every year. Mu Shenfu had 3 million soldiers and 30 vice-commanders, all of whom had outstanding military exploit. Lu Zhantian had fought his way to this point with his own hands. He had obviously won the respect of all the masters in Mu Shenfu and the chief's favor. At this moment, Lu Zhantian was holding a spear and the light dragon sword at his waist, speeding outside Heavenly Sword Hall. Heavenly Sword Hall Master was established by Lu Zhantian's father, Lu Jing. Lu Jing was known as Heavenly Sword and had contributed greatly to the chief's expansion of the territory. Lu Jing's face was solemn as he looked at His Highness's son. He frowned and reprimanded. "Now that the 3 armies are at war, as the vice-commander, how can you abandon the army and return to the rear?" "Father, I heard that little 7 was bitten by the 7 Extremes snake, so I rushed back from the border battlefield. I heard a lot of news along the way, so I came to ask you if it's true." Lu Zhantian stood proudly like a spear. "What news?" Lu Jing frowned and asked. "Does the sovereign want to marry little 7 to the person who finds the 7 Extremes grass?" Lu Zhantian asked in a muffled voice. Yes. Lu Jing replied in a deep voice. Boom. Lu Zhantian stabbed his long spear into the ground. The defense of the Heavenly Sword Hall was activated by him. His gaze was oppressive. This kind of person who had been fighting on the battlefield all year round had a strong murderous aura. At this moment, even the Heavenly Sword God Lu Jing felt some pressure. There's nothing we can do about it. It's impossible to buy the 7 extinction grass in the market. We can only use the bounty to command the world to search for it. Could it be that you wish to see little 7 die from the poison? Lu Jing explained in a deep voice. Then why didn't you tell me to come back and look for the 7 extinction grass? Are you my father or not? When I was 17 years old, I was only in the Great Emperor realm. You sent me to the battlefield. I went through hundreds and thousands of battles before I achieved my goal. At this moment, I only want to marry little 7. Now that such a big thing happened, you deliberately didn't inform me. How do you want to raise me to be satisfied? Lu Zhantian roared in anger. Lu Jing was like a sword. His murderous aura wasn't any weaker than Lu Zhantian's. His sharp gaze swept across Lu Zhantian's face as he said coldly, "A man should be like your uncle, opening up a territory and becoming a sovereign. You should be at the front lines killing the enemy and gaining merits, not thinking about love." Lu Zhantian's gaze was as cold as a sword. His rebellious character was as ruthless as his killing intent. He never cared about who his opponent was or what his father was like. So what if his father was a sovereign? It was impossible for him to not get what he wanted. Lu Zhantian pulled out his battle spear and turned to leave. Lu Jing angrily berated, "Is this the attitude you should have when talking to your father? Where do you think you're going?" The cold space in the hall was filled with sword chi and heavenly sword intent. Lu Zhantian didn't turn his head and said indifferently, "I've always been like this. Now I just want to find the 7 extremes grass." Lu Jing didn't expect his son to be so determined. He took a deep breath and reminded him in a low voice, "There's no need to look for it. I just received news that the 7 extremes grass has been found. The sovereign has already sent people to get it." Lu Zhantian's body trembled. His iron fist clenched the battle spear tightly. His gaze was cold as he looked at Lu Jing with resentment. The only thing he wanted was killed by his father with his own hands. "Tell me, who got the 7 extremes grass?" Lu Zhantian took a deep breath and asked with his eyes closed. "Xianyue County, the crazy sect in the Western Gorge Mountain. It's a small sect that was recently established, but it's about to be destroyed. The news of the 7 extremes grass has already been spread to the top 10 experts of the younger generation. How could they give up the opportunity to marry Shao Qi? I think the crazy sect will be destroyed by tonight at the latest. The top 10 experts, except for you and Mu Feilong, have already rushed to Xianyue County ahead of time. They're one step ahead of the people from the Mu Shin estate," Lu Jing said in a low voice. "Dirty politics. If something goes wrong with the 7 extremes grass and Shao Qi dies, I'll kill them all." Lu Zhantian soared into the sky with a long roar. The dragon hovered under his feet and then soared into the sky, heading straight to Xianyue County. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the end, Lu Zhantian was one step too late. After all, Yi Qinghan had obtained the 7 extremes grass 2 days ago, and he had informed the Mu Shinfu yesterday. Some people in the Mu Shinfu obviously didn't want a small force like the crazy sect to soar into the sky. Instead, they wanted the forces and sects related to them to obtain the 7 extremes grass. Therefore, the top 10 experts, except for Lu Zhantian and Mu Feilong, had all set off yesterday. At this moment, they had already reached the territory of Xianyue County. Xiao Xingyang was ranked 3rd, Tian Jianzi was ranked 4th, and Huang Zai Tian was ranked 5th. In fact, it wasn't just the top 8 experts, there were also more than 30 elites from the Mu Clan Academy. They were all gathered in Xianhui County. The Xianhui County was such a small and remote city, but the elites were flying everywhere. Divine Lord Xian's face was pale. He had seen many experts. Although these people were of the younger generation, their true strength was not inferior to his. Especially the top 10 experts, which one of them didn't have military achievements. Even if they didn't have as many as Lu Zhantian, they were still incomparable to ordinary people. With the addition of the people from the Mu Clan Academy, even if all the experts in Xianhui County gathered together, they wouldn't be able to withstand the attack of these people. During the day, many people were moving around Xixia Mountain, but they didn't attack. After all, everyone knew that the fight for the 7 Extremes grass was done secretly. The master of the Mu clan wouldn't say anything. However, if they tried to snatch it in broad daylight, the master of the Mu clan would be furious. Divine Lord Xian looked at Yi Qinghan with a pale face, hoping that he could come up with a solution. Brother Yi, the people sent by the master of the Mu clan won't arrive until tomorrow morning. They will definitely take action tonight. What should we do now? Divine Lord Xian asked with a bitter smile. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He sneered and said with a hoarse voice, "Call the Blood Moon Divine Guards back to the city. There's no need to sacrifice them. Leave this matter to me." Chapter 534. In the insane sect, Yi Qinghan gave the only intermediate water divinity to the star-twining vine. He wanted to turn the star-twining vine into a lesser deity. Using an intermediate deity's divinity to create a lesser deity was indeed extravagant. However, Yi Qinghan did not think it was a waste. Once the star-twining vine became a lesser deity, it would be equivalent to an army of deities. The star-twining vine waved hundreds of thousands of vines around the book divinity and desperately absorbed its divine power to condense a divinity that belonged to it. Apart from Gu Qingyu and Emperor Yi, everyone in the insane sect took their divinities and went into seclusion after Yi Qinghan returned 3 days ago. Condensing a divinity was a huge project. It was definitely not something that could be done in 3 to 5 days. Everyone in the insane sect was in seclusion and could not prepare for the battle at night. Moreover, they could not be disturbed. Otherwise, if they failed to condense a divinity, it would have an immeasurable impact on their later cultivation. Yi Qinghan frowned. There was still half a day before the sky turned dark. Xixia Mountain would definitely be plunged into a bloody rain. Little Jinwu, my son, Medusa, come and help me forge berserk. Yi Qinghan took out 2 mantis pincers and a large number of divine equipment materials. He was ready to forge berserk, the grade 11 berserk saber. Medusa and Emperor Yi poured their divine power into Yi Qinghan's body. Yi Qinghan mobilized the grade 10 divine flame and began to condense the materials. Yi Qinghan controlled the grade 10 divine flame smoothly. The high temperature of the flame was restrained and did not leak out at all. It enveloped the mantis pincers and a large number of divine equipment materials. The high temperature of tens of thousands of degrees could instantly melt an emperor weapon. Yi Qinghan also threw the original form of berserk in, and it melted instantly. Divine power reinforced the flames. The origin of fire of the 10th grade was reinforced by Medusa and Renhuang Ye's divine power. It instantly broke through the shackles and was promoted to the 11th grade. The fierce flames suddenly went out of control and almost drowned the entire Kuang sect. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He tried his best to imprison the 11th grade fire origin to one side and mobilized the metal origin to wrap around the fire origin. His fire godhead revolved to the limit. The 3 godheads in his sea of consciousness revolved at full speed, causing the sea of bitterness to churn. Whoosh! The mantis pincers and a large amount of materials turned into liquid. The impurities were all removed, and the liquid divine splendor was like a long dragon. It contained the elements of the 5 elements: wind, lightning, the great Tao of reincarnation, and the great Tao of destruction. Space laws. Medusa had added the great Tao of yin and yang and the great Tao of order, while Emperor Yi had added the minor Tao of zither and the great Tao of chaos into the molten metal. The 5 elements, lightning and great Tao of the world, were almost complete. Yi Ching Han added all the formations and divine restrictions he knew into it. A lesser deity artifact that contained so many great Tao laws and the 5 elemental essences was definitely 1 in a million. A supreme-grade lesser divine artifact. Whoosh, a drop of blood was forced out by Yi Ching Han. It also contained all of Yi Ching Han's laws and great Tao. It was enveloped by the 11th grade divine fire and directly integrated into the molten metal. The little golden crow spat out fire with all its might. It almost spat out its own flame of life. The mad sect was set on fire, and the space kept collapsing. If not for Yi Ching Han's intention to protect the inner sect, the entire Western Canyon Mountain would have been burned into nothingness. Everything was logical. Senior Divine Mystic was trembling from afar. Her face was pale. She felt that if she came into contact with Yi Ching Han's flames, she would be burned into nothingness. Yi Ching Han's divine power poured out in torrents, and the divine power in his 3 great divine personas was completely exhausted. Even with the support of Emperor Yi and Medusa, he still felt that his divine power wasn't enough. He mobilized all the divine crystals and supreme-grade spirit crystals, turning them into divine power and rushing into Yi Ching Han's body. Materials were constantly put into the fire. No matter how strong the equipment was, it melted in an instant. Yi Ching Han was still not satisfied. He had almost used up all his materials. The materials that Senior Divine Mystic had accumulated for countless years were all used by Yi Ching Han. Not everyone could forge a divine artifact. Even Senior Divine Mystic had not forged a divine artifact for so many years. She only used ordinary divine weapons, which could not be considered a divine artifact. After all, there were not many divine artifact forgers. The divine artifact's madness slowly took shape. It was the final step, the artifact spirit. The artifact spirit was the most important thing in a divine artifact. It was equivalent to the divine artifact's soul. The stronger the artifact spirit, the more powerful the madness would be. Even if it was broken, it would heal on its own. However, such a artifact spirit was not easy to find. Yi Ching Han liked to do things perfectly. Since he had forged the Madness Divine Artifact, he naturally wanted the Madness Divine Artifact to be perfect so that it could accompany him for life. Moreover, this Madness Divine Artifact was fused with countless treasures. It could not be wasted easily. Yi Ching Han gritted his teeth and forced out his 3 godheads. The Metal Godhead, Water Godhead, and Fire Godhead. Go! The 3 godheads were wrapped in the 11th grade flames and fused into the hilt. The 3-foot-long hilt had a huge space inside. The 3 godheads hung in the hilt with a wisp of soul attached to it. They emitted a divine light. As long as the 5 elements godheads were gathered, this Madness Divine Artifact would be flawless. It would not be a problem for a lesser divine artifact to crush an intermediate divine artifact. Endless elements of the 5 elements gathered, especially the metal origin, which was especially rich, turning the Madness Divine Artifact into an elemental divine artifact. It was indestructible. Ordinary lesser divine artifacts would definitely not be able to withstand one slash and would break. The Madness Divine Artifact took shape. It was still 7 feet long and weighed 30,000 pounds. The hilt was thick and long. Together with Yi Ching Han's slender figure, it exploded with a tyrannical aura. The killing intent spread. Sovereign God Mystic almost went limp on the spot and could not summon up any battle intent. He had never seen such a powerful divine artifact before, and had never seen such a domineering and arrogant man like Yi Ching Han. Seeing Yi Ching Han was like seeing the prefecture master. This kind of innate divine might was unique. Sword core. Yi Qinghan's cold light flashed. He reached out and grabbed the madness divine artifact. He instantly felt that he and the sword had become one. One slash could kill anyone of the same level. As long as the madness divine artifact was equipped with the sword core, it would definitely be on par with a lesser divine artifact. If it was supported by a powerful divine artifact, it would not be impossible to deal with an intermediate divine artifact. What should he use as the sword core? Yi Qinghan muttered in his heart. With his soul and godhead as the artifact's spirit, it was already very perfect. If it was supported by the sword core, it would definitely be able to display the madness divine artifact perfectly. The sword light slashed across and directly tore apart the stable space of the mythical plane. Divine light of 9 colors illuminated the heavens. Lightning automatically evolved on the back of the madness divine artifact. There was no need to go through a lightning tribulation. The heavens and earth directly recognized the strength of the madness divine artifact. Hua! Yi Qinghan lightly slashed the sword. The sky collapsed and broke the space. Emperor Yi and Medusa sat cross-legged on the ground and started to recover their divine power. It was still very difficult for Yi Qinghan to fight at night. Now, Black Moon County had gathered close to 100 young experts. There were also some young masters from powerful aristocratic families protecting them. There were at least 500 enemies, if not 1,000. Yi Qinghan swallowed a few stalks of divine medicine. Looking at the perfect madness divine artifact, he directly summoned the divine bird and asked in a low voice, "Divine bird, what do you think is the best choice for the sword core?" The divine bird was silent. This matter involved the supreme battle prowess of the madness divine artifact. If there was a good sword core, not only could it defend against the madness divine artifact, it could also support Yi Qinghan's divine power. Yi Qinghan would definitely be able to stand proudly in the mythical plane. It did not speak nonsense and started to rack its brains. "Wait, let me think." The divine bird lay on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, its eyes flickering. Yi Qinghan did not rush it. He sat cross-legged on the ground and started to absorb the divine power in the god crystals to recover his strength. Time passed slowly. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Ye's power was rising rapidly. When their divine power was exhausted, it was time for them to break through. Medusa, who had not broken through for a long time, finally showed signs of improvement. Emperor Yi directly rose to the peak of the lesser god realm. His soul instantly covered the entire Black Moon County and saw all the enemies, but they did not know. Madness divine artifact stood beside Yi Qinghan, its domineering aura spreading. It was as if a supreme emperor had descended to the mortal world. Yi Qinghan could completely mobilize the divine power in the godhead. He and the sword core were one, and the sword core was one. Yi Qinghan might be the first person to put the godhead in his natal divine weapon. His guts were not small. As long as the berserk saber didn't perish, the godhead wouldn't be damaged. Even if Yi Qinghan was killed instantly, the wisp of soul and the drop of blood inside the berserk saber would be able to recover and cultivate into a human again. Time passed slowly. Yi Qinghan's divine power was slowly recovering. The 3 godheads could store an endless amount of divine power. The resources they consumed were not much less than the star-twisting vine. 2 godheads, 10 million top-grade spirit crystals, and 3,000 god crystals. Such resources were enough to cultivate a small army. However, it was not enough to fill Yi Qinghan's 3 godheads. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan breathed out a mouthful of turbid air and began to mobilize the spiritual energy in the world. He was like a spirit-gathering array at this moment. Boundless divine power surged into the godhead and was converted into divine power. It could instantly enter the godhead. The sky gradually darkened, and the experts outside began to become restless. Xiao Xingyang was ranked 3rd among the younger generation in the Mu clan's sphere of influence. He was a third-year student of the Mu Clan Academy and had a high chance of entering one of the 3 divine academies. In the Mu Clan Academy, his reputation was second only to Lu Zhantian and Mu Feilong. At this moment, he was sitting alone in a small restaurant, sipping divine wine. He was very relaxed, not at all worried that Yi Qinghan would escape or that someone would steal the 7 Extremes grass. The 7 Extremes grass is mine. The 7th princess is also mine. Whoever dares to snatch it from me will die. Xiao Xingyang raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a cold and arrogant smile. In the same small restaurant, there was more than one student of the Mu Clan Academy. The 4th-ranked Tian Jianzi and the 5th-ranked Huang Zitian were all here. Their battle intent was high. If it weren't for the fact that they were worried about the later stage, they would have drawn their swords and fought. Almost all of the lesser god priests in the Mu clan's sphere of influence were here. They couldn't be promoted to middle god priests, so they could only take shortcuts to obtain the 7 Extremes grass and exchange it for middle god crystals. If they were fated to marry the 7th princess, a path to the upper level would be paved for them. They were all ruthless characters. They didn't want to admit defeat. Their killing intent grew stronger and stronger. The children in the small restaurant were almost scared to death. The owner wanted to cry but had no tears. These people looked incomparably generous, giving away hundreds of top-grade spirit crystals and even god crystals. However, he was afraid that he wouldn't be alive to spend this money. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.